Paolo.
Welcome all participants and all are with us in any part of the world. Today we closed the week with Arab countries and Italy. The title of this week is Creative Cities for the Urban and Territorial Regeneration of a Post-COVID Local Education Society for the Sustainable Development Goals. Especially the title of this symposium is Cultural, Social, and Educational Regeneration of the Sustainable City, Research and Experience in the Mediterranean Area. We start with Professor Mohsen Aboulnaga. He's a professor at the University of Cairo. I like to present him in a very short words.
Paolo, perdão, Paolo.
Sì.
Tem que zerar tu micrófono.
Cultural, social, and educational regeneration
Tu micrófono.
of the sustainable city. Research and experience in the Mediterranean area. It's open. It's okay. With Professor Mohsen. May I? Professor Mohsen Aboulnaga chart curriculum. Not okay?
Yeah. Shall I share my screen now?
Julieta, there is a problem.
Shall I?
Vabbè, ma tu, perdão, un momento.
Shall I?
Paolo.
Sì.
Está dobrando, tem que ver quem tem micrófono com eco. Está mal o sonido.
Professor Mohsen Aboulnaga chart curriculum. Not okay?
Yeah. Shall I share my screen now?
Marco Túlio.
Julieta,
Sim.
there is a problem. Hay problemas.
Vamos a ver se ele pode hablar assim.
Shall I?
Paolo.
Sí.
Está dobrando, tem que ver quem tem micrófono correto. Está mal o sonido.
Professor Mohsen Aboulnaga chart curriculum.
Do you hear me clearly, Professor Paolo? Clearly now?
Yes, Mohsen. Go ahead.
Shall I start?
Yes, please.
All right. Do you hear me clearly?
Yes.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to be here today. First of all, I would like to thank Professor Juliette Heda and Professor Paolo Orefice for inviting me for this important events for the Third World Congress on in Italy and Mexico. Today, my presentation basically will be on promoting sustainability through complex approach in urban development to attain SDGs, with a special reference to two parts of the studies, part in Netherlands, Rotterdam, and Egypt experience and project. My presentation outline will be divided in three parts. Part one will be on city challenges and the role of innovation, complex approach, which open innovation case studies, Netherlands, Rotterdam, 7 initiatives on sustainability, and also the assessment project funded by the EU, creating sustainable development, energy, and also livable cities in 2 cities of Egypt, as well as other experience of projects. We all know that city has a lot of challenges, basically. One of them is economic challenge, social challenges, environmental challenges, as well as rapid population growth, as well as scarce resources. But also we are encountered with a major challenge, which is climate change, and also recently in the past 2 years with COVID-19. So if you know that cities worldwide are responsible for 70% of the total primary energy, 67% of the global CO2 emission, and also 75% of the world natural resources consumption, and generating about 80% of the world planet waste. So also, not only that, but also, as you know, that SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, have been hit hard by COVID-19 pandemic, mainly in the SDG number 1 and SDG number 2, which actually estimated to be 1.2 trillion to resolve the coronavirus challenges and impacts. Not only that, but also SDG number 3 and 4, which in Africa alone, return on education, actually refrain about 300 people from going to schools. So that's affecting our city as well. Also from the economic growth, and also the SDG 7 and SDG 11. So all the effort and progress done by the SDGs have been hindered and tackled by the coronavirus. So sustainable development and achieving city resilience are key in the age of COVID-19 to ensure, first of all, sustainability, also SDG attainment, and also to prove climate in cities. So basically, in order to tackle that, we need to adopt open innovation, which known as a complex approach in meeting these challenges. Complex approach and open innovation is increasingly accepted as a new tool for governments to tackle global challenges as well as city challenges. Now I'm going to highlight how the open innovation strategies have been adopted in 2 major cities, one in the Netherlands and the second one in Egypt. Those are the 2 examples that I'm going to talk about. Basically, in the first open innovation strategy case study 1, the main goal was to achieve and reduce and mitigate CO2 emission, air quality improvements, and also flood management. Whereas in Egypt, the main target for the project was to mitigate greenhouse gas emission in cities in 8 sectors, and also sustainable energy action plan and institutional capacity, how to train and improve the capacity of the municipality and local government authorities to tackle city challenges, and of course, climate action. So for the first case study, it's in the Netherlands, the city of Rotterdam in Netherlands. They adopted actually strategic approach for open innovation to tackle their city problems. The first type of the open innovation, they looked at the citizen, the company, NGOs, and also expert to support the municipalities in tackling the city problems. But in this one, the municipality was not in the main core. In level 2, you will find out that you have the citizen participating and the municipality is acting as an infrastructure for the whole project. You see the municipality at the bottom here, and they can actually advise on the policy development, where in the circle, you'll find the academician, the companies, the experts, the NGOs, and also citizen participation with the co-creator facilitator. The type 3, basically, you'll find out the municipality taking part as a co-creative partnership. And this is the most effective strategy for open innovation and complex approach in solving city challenges. In the city of Rotterdam, there are 7 initiatives that we're going to highlight to actually examine the city sustainability. Do you hear me clearly? Hello?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right. The first one, the main aim of this initiative is to create source of clean energy. The platform is used to divide the profit between the generated energy. Rotterdam municipality funded the initiative through City Lab 010. And this is actually done in the executive stage only. And the purpose was to share the roof of the buildings with the neighbors, to fix renewable energy on the top of the buildings, and then share the profit. the main outcome of this initiative was 3 to 5 roofs were so far developed at that time. Initiative number 2 were the improve the air quality in the city main street of Rotterdam. It's very, very polluted, so they use the air wash to spray the air, and then the nitrogen oxide has been settled down in the sewage system. The Dutch scientific organization is part, and the municipality of Rotterdam was funding the initiative through the City Lab 010. The open innovation was implemented in the planning phase and also in the implementation phase. And air become, as an outcome of this initiative, air become more cleaner. Technology is proved, but it's used inevitably. The third initiative, basically to create inclusive, sustainable mobility and the best use of public spaces. That's called Happy Streets. And the municipality collaborated with the Research Institute, Urban Agency, and Humankind Street Events. The municipality of Rotterdam developed the mobility arena for people to use it. And then it has been also, as a complex approach, it has been done in the planning and execution as well. So the outcome created Happy Street Index that has been improved and also developed to measure the citizen happiness as well. Initiative number 4 was called Flip Traffic Light Inventors. And the city of Rotterdam was actually developed the program for the cyclist, and the priority was given to cyclists to remove the carbon emission from vehicles. And the aim was to promote cycling behavior to enhance air quality. The 5th one is called Rotterdam Water Square, the main aim to manage floods and keeping water out of city. Basically, the municipality of Rotterdam and the firm Deurbanization was part of this initiative, and City of Rotterdam managed the initiative with other stakeholders. So it's a group of people, as I mentioned, in the open innovation strategy. You have many players and stakeholders participating to make it happen. You cannot do it with one-man show. It has to be a complete, complex approach to solve city challenges. And as I mentioned before, open innovation was tackled in the planning and execution stage. This is actually another important one, the main creating urban farm, supply food, clean food, achieve livability. It was one of the old office building in Rotterdam. It has been taken, improved to cultivate urban farming on the top of the building. People can go and enjoy their livability and life and eat clean food at 0 kilometer carbon dioxide and reduce energy. The municipality of Rotterdam and the Environmental Center of Rotterdam was part of this initiative, and it was managed and funded by the other stakeholders. So at the end of the day, this initiative managed to get climate proof, food supply, achieve livability, make city resilient. As I mentioned also for this initiative, Dakar, rooftop urban farm, the open innovation complex approach have been done in the planning and execution stage. The last initiative called Strat-D, Climate Action. The main aim is to create solution for air pollution and climate change, and where all the water have been taken and adding to the greenery, and the water storage have been done under the building in the ground, and then to supply new street with design with livability and change the mindset of people to save. And the main players for this open innovation complex approach are the municipality of Rotterdam, Bosch, and local and regional government of Rotterdam and Den Haag as well. So the municipality of Rotterdam managed the collection with the institution and citizen for this as well. So the main thing is to have climate action, small food supply, new street designed for livability and change mindset. At the end of the day, in evaluating all this, you see the 7 initiatives, and those are the 4 main parameters for the assessment: CO2 emission, air quality, flood management, and livability. The chart in front of us shows what has been achieved in each initiative, highlighted by the orange color, where the white color were not achieved. That's for how the city of Rotterdam adopted the open innovation and complex approach strategy in managing the city challenges. Now I'm going to move into the second one, Open Innovation Case Study 2. That's a project funded by the European Union. And I was appointed by the European Union for a senior expert for the project, and also the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, to conduct the assessment for the city of Luxor and city of Hurghada. We adopted in this open innovation complex approach the third type, where the municipality was taking part in the co-creative. The co-creative is an expert managing the group of the stakeholders to meet the city challenges and try to educate them and also find solution to get out of the non-resilience, non-sustainable approach. The open innovation for this was conducted on 8 sectors: transport, residential buildings, tertiary government buildings, agriculture, industry, waste and wastewater, tourism, and renewable energy. For the city of, we conducted basically almost 12 workshops with 24 government sectors from the municipality of Hurghada and municipality of Luxor to actually measure the greenhouse gas emission and how we can mitigate that in all these sectors that I mentioned before. So that's a huge task. And we were actually, the team was 7 plus 24 from the municipality conducted in this kind of open innovation strategy for the city of Luxor and city of Hurghada. For the city of Hurghada, Luxor, sorry, we found out that the major sector consuming energy and are the transport and residential building, followed by tourism. Whereas for the city of Hurghada, transport and tourism were the highest sector because of the tourism and the 2 airports in the city and the hotels and transportation between the airport and the hotels. So we done an action plan, a sustainable action plan to develop the city mitigating the emissions. For the carbon as well, you can see here the kiloton carbon per year, CO2, for the city of Luxor and the transport and the residential buildings. And also for the city of Hurghada, we found out that tourism and transport, we conducted action plans to improve the emission for the 2 cities. We also done climate action for risk assessment based on climate data for the 2 cities. We have receptors, impact against the impact for and probability for the both cities in terms of public health, transport, energy, water, social, building sector, and stock, tourism, agriculture, and cost zones and ecosystem, as well as green zone forest. So the chart in front shows us the highest receptors for the risk assessment, and with the municipality for both cities done action plan to overcome such results. Also, I'm going to talk about the last part about sustainable mega project in Egypt, the new administrative capital, the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization, Tahrir Square urban renovation, and Baron Imban renovation assessment of the sustainable renovation. As you know, Cairo has started in 1882 as a small city, but now becoming very big. And then in 1991 became mega city with more than 10 million inhabitants in there. So the expansion of the city went to the east. So this is the Egypt Development Zone transformation. In the past 5 years, Egypt has embarked on an ambition plan to implement several national and mega projects with a redesigned Egypt economic map. This is the new capital near the Cairo airport and near the Suez Canal, and they are starting to join east, as I mentioned. The city will become, the new capital will become basically walkable city, connected city, livable, green, smart, sustainable, and business city as well. So this is the phase 1, will accommodate 7 million. The construction started 4 years ago. It's about completion in the first phase. And also the city will accommodate the tallest building in Africa, adopting smart and sustainable solutions, as well as the government complex where everything will be digitized, so no transportation for people to go. They can go and do everything. This is the government complex under construction. The lighting system was done by Italian company, and this is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and all the ministry will be grouped there, so they manage the transportation, and everything will be connected online. So that is a sustainable way to develop city challenges. This is also the second project, the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization. It has been done with the Mummies Parade in April this year, and I'm sure all of you have seen it, to promote social culture, cultural sustainability, and also open museum, walkable space, green area, water, social and cultural sustainability. And the whole place has been transformed into environmentally ecosystem area, thanks to the effort for the government. And also Tahrir Square have been renovated to reflect the history of the old Cairo. This is some of the images they installed to achieve the SDG number 11. The last slide was the Palace restoration. We conducted a study on this iconic building with Professor Paolo Puma. We presented the study results in Bolzano, the Environmental Sustainability Conference in January 2021. And also we conducted a journal paper, will be published in the Sustainable Mediterranean Construction magazine, which is the journal from the University of Napoli, will be actually published in 2 months' time. The main issue here that the whole palace have been deserted for 40 years, but the government took the initiative to reinvent the wheel and make the whole socio-culture viability, walkability, livability, and also achieving SDG number 11. And as you can see, during the coronavirus, we conducted assessment of sustainability from the economic point of view, social point of view, environmental point of view, and cultural point of view. And all the results will be published soon, so you can visit the whole thing. Thank you very much. Hello?
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you very much, Professor Mohsen.
Thank you very much, Professor Paolo.
For this very big synthesis, very rich synthesis of your presentation, where you can see there is a very good complex approach at a different level. The fact that you use a different level, that is a good approach for transdisciplinarity. And also, it's very interesting your comparison with European experience with Rotterdam and Luxor and Hurghada. It's very interesting, this open approach. And also, we noted that your country, there is very big projects, especially the new administrative capital, where urban space are very regenerated, if I understand. And also it's very interesting that you work on intangible and tangible development. You are very, very, very thanks and felicitation for your contribution.
Thank you very much, Professor Paolo.
If you give me another minute, Professor Mohsen, I like to present your rich curriculum. Very rich, is short, but it's very big. I'm sorry. I like to read only the few words. Professor Dr. Mohsen Aboulnaga has more than 35 years of vast experience in high-level government positions, senior management, and the consultancy in sustainable development reporting and sustainable development goals, climate change adaptation, as well as sustainable energy, energy efficiency and renewable energy, and sustainable cities. He holds a PhD degree from University of Leeds in the United Kingdom and graduated from Cairo University Professor Aboulnaga is a sustainable urban development, a smart city and energy efficient city. He has been involved in developing many concept notes for NZOR Sustainable Initiative 2099. European Union funded the projects and the Union for Mediterranean UETF. Dr. Aboulnaga areas of competence encompass sustainable development attainment, strategy planning, and policy development, low carbon society, and sustainable cities, as well as climate change mitigation and urban farming in cities. Other area and expertise include executive capacity building and coaching local government and training on strategic planning leadership, strategic planning, and SDG and innovation. Among these milestones are very long list of projects, of experience, of participation in the conference, of a publication. Is an honor for us, Professor Mohsen, to have your excellent contribution our Congress.
Same here.
30, very long experience, but very important. Is a good contribution to understand the Arab situation in different countries. Yeah, we thanks a lot. I think there are not questions for the moment.
The honor is mine, Professor Paolo.
Sorry?
The honor is mine.
Honor both. We hope you can after this Congress, you can stay in contact with Professor Paola. Puma,
it's my pleasure also.
Because you know you have the Presidential Congress in November 22. We hope that COVID will give a possibility. Thank you very much, Professor Mohsen, also Isabella Galvagna, and the other colleagues is very, very happy for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
If you stay with us,
Sure.
Okay, when we finish the English-speaking group, you open session for general question, and you can mix it contribution of a participant. Now,
sure. Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Paolo. Thank you very much, Professor Juliet. Thank you, Isabella.
For your contribution. I have to present Paola Puma and Stefania Vitali. Paola Puma, Associate Professor Representation Survey of Architecture and Environment, and the Survey for the Sustainable Enhancement of the Historical Context and the Visual Education to Sustainable Cultural Heritage at the University of Florence, School of Architecture and School of Humanities and Education. Coordinator of the Research Unit Landscape, Cultural Heritage, Design and Department of Architecture at the University of Florence, member of the Scientific Board of Techneub Industrial Research Laboratory, High Technology Network, member of the Board of Experts for Czech Science Foundation, JACR, the institution in the Czech Republic, which provides public funding for basic research projects. Member of the International PhD School International Doctorate in Architecture and Urban Planning at the University of Ferrara and Polis University, Tirana, Albania, and of the International PhD in Media Arts in Tbilisi State Academy of Arts, Party of Media Arts, member of Ambiences International Network, Grenoble, France. Dr. Puma is an expert of policy for the sustainable refurbishment of the historical building heritage to conciliate the memory of places and sustainable enhancement of historical settlement methodology, identify survey for the development of responsive urban design. She developed a research proposal for EU in 2099, and it's entitled Cost Action, Reconnecting People and Place, Fostering Architecture in Material Resilience. The title of a contribution of Professor Paola Puma is Culture and Resilience in Post-COVID City with Stefania Vitali, that I present after your contribution. Please, Professor Paola Puma.
Thank you so much, Professor Orefice, for your nice and long presentation. It's quite difficult to intervene after Professor Mohsen Aboulnaga. Anyway, we will try. Good morning and good evening to everyone. Also, on behalf, do you see my screen? No, sorry. I will try again.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Lo potessi vedere anch'io, sarei contento.
Open screen. Okay. Okay. Please.
One moment, please. Do you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Yes, we do
I'll
hear you.
proceed. Also, on behalf of the architect Stefania Vitali, we are together in the same room. I thank the academic committees for this honorable invitation and glad to share with the participants our presentation. A city can be said to be resilient if its form is maintained through successive metamorphoses while maintaining its essential structure and identity. Our presentation will try to focus on the role of culture in maintaining the idea of the urban form also in the post-COVID city. The recent growing presence of the term resilience in the debate on sustainability, also in planning, governance, and politics, and the more active lines of research on the risks of built heritage have brought to widespread attention about the need to create resilience at the urban level, as well as at the building scale. And moreover, has grown the urgent need to qualify the resilience with the theoretical and operational framework necessary to achieve its complex notion. Point number one, sustainability, resilience, and immaterial resilience. With the first point concerns these terms with particular attention to the notion of immaterial resilience, which composes urban and architectural elements of existing settlements with the anthropological and social dimension of the places to favor the creation of more inclusive and sustainable urban environments. This goal is supported especially by the networking of stakeholders in the design and decision processes. Sustainable urban planning reflects a static vision of the future and aspires to a stable and distant in time future. Resilience represents a more dynamic vision of the future in which risk and uncertainty is the norm, and where the increasing complexity of the built environment produces diversity, frequency, and severity of disaster scenarios. But to develop resilience, it will be necessary to reconcile these two speeds and move from a static vision to a dynamic, recursive, and shared vision. It means operating with a complex approach and a shared vision to reach common planetary goals. Even today, the classic vision of urban resilience makes prevalent, if not exclusive, reference to the management of natural disasters, and the widespread operational meaning of damage, of the term damage, refers above all to material damages deriving from disasters understood almost exclusively as natural traumatic events. However, there is a series of problems that sometimes derive from slow changes in the general condition of city life, which cause deterioration of the habitat, abandonment, or alienation of communities. We are talking of invisible and not measurable damages, They are intangible, but not less serious than physical ones, such as the loss of identity, the weakening of the urban fabric, social dispersion for the larger cities, or depopulation and abandonment for the smaller one. Cultural heritage is our bond with the past come to life in the present. It shapes our thinking and identity, our environment and the places we live in. European cultural heritage is unique and diverse. Of course, it doesn't matter only the European cultural heritage. It awakens curiosity, stimulates creativity, and is an unlimited source of inspiration for every aspect of our lives. It builds bridges between people and communities. This sentence introduced the following scientific framework and statement. The cultural sustainability concept. Stefania, mi togli sti fogli, per favore? Da lì. Ti alzi, togli i fogli. How is intangible resilience considered in a more general frame? Communities experience change every day, and albeit mainly unconsciously, resist, respond, adapt by constant changes their behavior. But only the explicit mention of the 11 SDG, making cities inclusive, safe, resistant, and sustainable, officially added the symbolic dimension of intangible risk to the list of commonly shared dangers. The UNESCO Convention of Paris in 2003, and then in 2005, the Faro Convention, are the main steps that mark the expansion of protection from material heritage, built and natural, towards the incorporation of intangible elements fully focused in 2015 in the SDG. Thus, the priority of considering urban resilience as an holistic set of material and immaterial systems that brings together people-centered and place-based approaches in an integrated cultural vision is quite recent. Moreover, the pandemic emergency acted as a marker of vulnerability, suddenly making it clear for everyone at a global level how close the relationship between man and city is, and how much its functions or their suspension, as occurred in the pandemic emergency, also have a physical impact on places. Cities that welcome ideas, intangible practices, and values not only constitute the physical scenario, but also create the cultural identity of the inhabitants, leading them to develop a strong place attachment. This vision emphasizes the relationship between people and their place, where the human being is an integral part of a settlement and inseparably connected to it. In particular, the historic cities allow the adaptive conditions that give it an added value in terms of sustainability of the transformations, thanks to the possibility of perpetuating itself by renovating in new skin at every stage of their life. We can state that historic cities are cities with a high level of resilience. The sense of rootedness, binding the inhabitants of a place to each other and to the context, develops over time and brings together all the social dimension of a community's life and its culture. Every day, in fact, a cultural stratification of knowledge, traditions, and customs take place in the city, defining it in a continuous, unique, and irreplaceable way to form the physiognomy of that place. The problems begin when this temporal and spatial continuity of the city cracks, or a temporarily distorted situation becomes too heavy and permanent, negatively affecting individual and collective identity. For example, the trauma of the lockdowns due to the pandemic emergency arises precisely from a series of sudden space-time caesuras between people and the scene of becoming a community, between the unexpected before and after, the continuity in time using of the cities and the spaces, in which social relations must be subjected to unnatural constraints for the inhabitants of urban contexts, born and thrived on proximity. But the lockdown has also had really few positive effects, like increasing awareness of the value of a cultural heritage and the need to rediscover the hidden texture of the cities, forgotten or neglected, less evident, but more dense spaces. My part is concluded, and then Stefania will proceed with the presentation. Sorry, one moment, we will move our chair.
Okay.
Good morning and good evening, all of you. I'll develop the topic of the cultural heritage and sustainability driver. Here you can see the main points featuring the cultural heritage field in its main element: tangible, intangible, and natural. Recently, the main lines of cultural policy currently adopted in all international fields have included in the cultural heritage the influences of the digital society, underlining the importance of the digital cultural heritage, so much so that today this asset is now articulated in 3 integrated types relating to several levels of reality: material, immaterial, digital heritage. And here we can see the cross-fertilization environment represented by cultural heritage, therefore finding recursive interconnections at different levels is essential to implement sustainable policies and practices. And here we can see that the work plan for culture 2019-2022 promotes the vision of a broader involvement of stakeholders in all the topics, from acquisition to dissemination to the enhancement of cultural heritage in a new broader direction, for which the cultural heritage is not only a way of preserving the memory of the past, but part of an organic system projected into the future, where cultural policies must be linked in terms of competitiveness of the social cohesion and well-being, to the job policies, to the environment. So we can say that the impact of local and global economies, social and environmental challenges on heritage, especially in cities, needs to develop critical heritage conservation and management strategies that intend not only to protect heritage in the urban environment, but also to make heritage contribute to the human sustainable development through community participation. The 5th point, the problems of reopening, especially in cities affected by mass tourism, like Florence, Venice, etc., show that we also need to develop intangible resilience, and we need a truly holistic model by leveraging culture and cultural heritage. Sustainable cultural management is to be developed in terms of economic and social impact, offering a deep reflection on what the values and the strategies for future social enterprises should be. It is the beginning of a new way of approaching society, communities, and their own cultural heritage. Culture thus becomes a relationship that is oriented to the long term and to future generations. After this excursus, we give a list of 4 actions to activate high added value adaptive process, peculiar to the knowledge society and the economy. It is necessary to enhance tangible resilience, strengthen the dissemination of the cultural heritage, share virtuous experience of access, use, and sharing of cultural heritage, create job and urban generation. How to do it? Stimulating the international scientific debate to analyze and implement a transdisciplinary complex approach based on the main matter of immaterial resilience. Promoting cultural heritage also in its digital dimension by leveraging its potential as a driver of cultural resilience on a urban scale that shifts the adaptive response to urban changes to an intangible level. Promoting the transdisciplinary model of participative actions like TPAR, with local knowledge and disciplinary knowledge, and implementing the logic of the included middle. 4 point is networking stakeholders to attract resources. So, in a comparison, we see different levels, action and strategies. In fact, the acceleration of the digital use of cultural heritage in the pandemic period in 2020 has led to a wider awareness that being able to use cultural heritage as an activity that responds to the basic needs of citizens and capture essential objectives of informal education, individual resilience, and social inclusion. And finally, intangible resilience is a powerful driver of prevention and rehabilitation, promotes the ability of communities to care for and generate their habitat through practices of co-planning and co-management as models of participatory and adaptive governance. Intangible resilience promotes the ability of networks to remain viable and preserves the socio-economic context and cultural identity, especially in the symbolic components of the urban townscape. And now we give some references here, if you like, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Stefania Vitali, for your contribution. Your contribution is very rich. You and Professor Paola Puma presented a very interdisciplinary approach as Professor Mohsen, analyzing the problem at a different level in different fields. And also, you give us some framework, theoretical framework, and also methodological and active action to do. It is very important when you speak about resilience, and you link architectural approach with other point of view. At the end, I like to present your Professor Stefania Vitali because I didn't interrupt your contribution. Stefania Vitali, architect, graduated from the Department of Architecture at the University of Florence, is an expert in urban regeneration planning, urban design, in touristic and residential fields with large and small-scale projects for building with high energy efficiency using traditional technology of Islam wood technology, participatory research. She was subject expert at the Laboratory of Architectural Design and Faculty of Architecture of Florence with Professor Fabio Fabrizi from 2011 to 2015. He has lectured at the Faculty of Architecture of Florence in the second level master degree on sustainable architecture in Mediterranean cities. He participated as an architect with a presentation entitled Livorno City, and participate also in the workshop of February 24-26 on OSHNet within the project OSH-EastNet, funded by the European Community, IPA member of the PPSP research unit of the Department of Architecture in Florence, where she followed the research project for participatory design for Piazza del Carmine, Piazza del Cestello, and the Novoli district in Florence. Since 2018, she is an adjunct member of the Unesco Transdisciplinary Chair in Human Development and Cultural Peace, as an adjunct member for the University of Florence, following, among other, RAPT paths for project of the Novoli neighborhood. Thanks a lot for your contribution, our colleagues. We have pleasure to work with you in some field project. Now, you have two contributions about the education. I remember that Wednesday, we underlined the relationship between education and resilience in a cultural approach, in complex approach, where the space that expert of architecture noted is the space, is the field where you can develop education. Is education of the community, is education not in the sense formal education only, but is education of the person at a different level and different approach. You have now two experiences. The first experience is Dr. Nitamo Federico Montecucco, President of Social Promotion Association Villaggio Globale, Bagni di Lucca, is near Lucca in Tuscany in Italy, from his contribution from cities to global citizenship, a transdisciplinary education program for sustainable development. I like to present in a few words the rich experience of Professor Nitamo Federico Montecucco, Director of the Institute of Neuropsychosomatics Researcher in Neuroscience, Brain EEG, Coherence, and Psychosomatics, President of the Villaggio Globale, the Global Village. He was Professor of Psychosomatic at Master of the WHO Collaborating Center for Complementary Medicine at the University of Medicine of Milan, Professor of Neuropsychosomatics and at the University La Sapienza, other university in Italy, and visiting professor of University also in Verona, Cagliari, Sassari. Following the World and United Nations, is speaking about the Agenda 2030, and with the help of a team of scientific, medical, psychological, education, social personality, he has developed a psychosomatics mindfulness protocol and the Gaia project, a lifelong education program for the global health and consciousness based on a systemic transdisciplinary paradigm rooted on neuroscience, psychological self-awareness researches, and oriented towards sustainability and planetary citizenship. The Gaia project is accredited by the Ministry of Education, University Research, selected and funded by the Ministry of Labor and Social Policy, and supported by the UNESCO Club of Lucca. Gaia project is reached over 30,000 children and adults through Italy, even in situation of economic and social degradation. The effectiveness of the program has been proven by many researchers also published in scientific journals. He has published several books and scientific articles. Thank you for your good and rich experience. We like to now to your presentation about your very rich experience. Please.
You, Professor Orefice. I just would like to thank you, to say good evening to all the ladies and gentlemen, and really to thank you for inviting me in this third International Congress. And I just share the screen. Un attimo ancora, okay. And I will try to give you, and I would like to just to show you our Gaia project, an educational work that we did in all in the main city of all Italy, even in situation of a very difficult social fragmentation and human degradation. And this is our venue, the Villa Demido in Bagni di Lucca. And since 30 years, we try to get together many scientists, academic, neuroscientists, doctor, psychologists, teacher, just to have, to create, to develop a transdisciplinary, unitary paradigm to give unity to the complexity of our world. And we would like just to change our the way to see the city. And just I would like even to thank you many of the scientists that have been with us in the last 30 years, Dalai Lama, Gorbachev, Federico Faggin, many teacher and university professor from many different Italian and foreign university. In the Gaia project, we have tried to get together simple seeds of physics, biology, neuroscience, medicine, psychology, just to give the person a very a center of consciousness. Basically, we see that the city, the main problem of the city, of the whole society, in fact, is that the people are not getting together, they are fragmented. And the fragmentation of the cities, of the society, we just studied that is coming from the brain coherence fragmentation of the different point of view that is coming from neuroscience and the fragmentation of brain and human psychosomatic consciousness. So just some short point. Francis Crick, Nobel for Medicine, is the first who started transdisciplinary approach to consciousness, brain consciousness research. We study very deeply the brain evolution, and we would like to quote that Paul MacLean that proposed the triune brain theory, say that in human being, these three brains are not getting together, they are fragmented. He called it schizophysiology. So the brain consciousness, the emotional consciousness, the body consciousness sometimes don't get together. They are not integrated. And this is basically the effect of the stress and the inhibition of action. The stress, the fight or flight response. Here is Henri Laborie. This was me just a few years ago. Henri Laborie points out that human beings cannot fight or flight. They cannot attack and be aggressive to people, to parents, to social pair. So the brain, when it's happy, when it's getting together, all the connections are deeply coherent, is showing a psychosomatic well-being. But when the stress is coming, all the network, the brain network, get really fragmented, and we start to have many fragmentation in the psychosomatic being. The mind goes in hyperactivity, difficulty of expression, emotional closure, tension in the diaphragm, and all the physiological point. This is Gerald Edelman, is a Nobel for Medicine, who say that awareness, the sense of self, is the effect of brain unity, of brain connection. Here on your right side, in the green point in the brain, is the thalamus, and the thalamus is synchronizing and connecting all the area of the brain. But this is Candice Perter. She was with us a few years ago. She discovered the endorphin. She was the first who published a scientific article in a psychosomatic network. And this is the higher concentration of endorphin found in a very self-centered area of the brain. So the satisfaction in our life and in the social relationship is done when we are integrated. And on the contrary, on the other way, when we don't feel integrated, we are stressed, fragmented, the brain is not coherent, and everything is going apart. We feel the sense of the self in the heart, and the thalamus is the heart of the brain, the center. This is Alan Shore, is very famous neuroscientist and psychologist, who showed that the children that have been grown up in a very unaffective and dysfunctional way have a very fragmented brain that leads to affective dysregulation, social conflict, disorder, and the developing, the neurocognitive development of the children. And this is a concept, a very famous neuroscientist who discovered the 7 main emotional systems in the brain. And again, when the self is there and the self have a coherence, all our emotional and relational behavior are moving in a very normal and healthy way. On the other side, in this map, that is one of the most advanced map of neurophysiology in the world, we are no more center, and from that center we start a very deep social hindrance and social aggressivity or blockage or anxiety or depression or psychosis. So we try in the Gaia project to teach to adults and to children the main practice, concept, theoretical concept, but immediately some practice that can lead to a unitary integrity, body-mind integrity. This is the brain coherence, the laser. The laser is an electromagnetic coherence, highly coherence wave. And this is Carl Pribram that have been with us many years ago in our center. And this is Stuart Penrose, Hameroff, and Roger Penrose that have won the Nobel Prize for Physics. And we share the consciousness as brain coherence. And this is our experiment. You can see on your left a very fragmented brain, left and right hemisphere, and the coherence is very low, 0, and a very highly coherent brain. The synchronization between brain waves is growing near 100%. This is like the coherence can be very low in depression and very high in people who work with self-awareness and meditation practice. And this is the neurophysiological basis of a new paradigm of a unitary vision. This is happening in couple. So between couple or between mother and child, there can be highly connection or very low connection and coherence. But mainly we teach in the school, in the classroom, and in the family, how the people can work to create a deep connection. You can see on the left, 12 people with no connection, with no coherence, and the same people after half an hour of mindfulness and self-awareness practice, and their brain seems to be 12 electrodes on the same brain. So this is the basic of a city that can be felt by the people who are living inside as my city, is my country. And basically we work to be my world. I'm a planetary citizen. This is some information about mindfulness that have been a revolution in psychology, and these are some time from page. Look at the scientific research about the effectiveness of mindfulness. The last year, more than 2,000 research in 1 year. So that's the mindfulness is reducing stress, reducing depression, reducing inflammation, tension, muscular and nervous tension, and is increasing satisfaction, well-being, affectivity, empathy, coherent behavior, communication. And so we try to go from a fragmented way of feeling mind versus body to a very unitary feeling of myself as part of one world. Okay, we work basically on the goal of 3, health and well-being, and 4, high quality education. This is the global village. This is one of the training in the Gaia project. And we see that in the current education, there is a lack of teaching oriented to self-awareness, emotional intelligence, empathy, collaboration, stress management, social and economical systemic vision. That is the basic of a good city life. In the Gaia project, we try with a transdisciplinary education that is giving information, but immediately supported by a practical experience, personal experience. How to teach to the people the self heart, the deep heart, the human dignity, the psychosomatic integrity. We reach in the last 5 years, 36,000 people, more or less half children and half adult in all the Italian regions. And this is after 12-hour lessons, lecture on Gaia project. This is the scientific evidence that this is the reduction of anxiety, depression. All main parameters have been ameliorated, improved, and look at how violence have been decreased. So and on the other side, all the behavior of empathy, collaboration, feeling to be one class, one world are enhanced. And the people, the children and adults really love this practice. So the satisfaction is very high. So we try to move. This is one of the last article we published on a very sophisticated and scientific magazine, and we try to move from an ego-centered way of living to an eco-centered way of living. And at the end of the Gaia project, to the children, to the adult, we give a diploma of planetary citizen. Is like a little proof that just to feel to be part of a vast world of the whole humanity that is moving to a very, every year more global and possible peaceful and sustainable future. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you a lot, Dr. Montecucco, for your very interesting contribution. You introduce this very big team, the mind work. In this Congress was a central team. The mind study and the mind experience are very important in your contribution. And it's very interesting, the different approach we noted in this Congress. There is many types of meditation to have open mind and the cautiousness. We remember the contribution of traditional communities. That is very important. And the last week we have the next week. The last week of the Congress is very interesting because you have a contribution of Buddha, the Buddha approach, but we say Oriental culture in India and Indonesia. That is, there are themes very interesting in our Congress. We think we come back on the presidential Congress, in which way we can develop your mind free and also to holistic approach to work on our mind. Thank you for your contribution.
Thank you.
And now if there are some questions, also the participant can put some question our colleague in the chat. Now we have another approach, another educative approach, is a territorial approach. No, you have to link, of course, the mind approach and the local approach, as you said, from ego to echo. That is a very big synthesis. In which manner your mind can develop a citizenship, the free citizenship, open citizenship. And you have in UNESCO network in the world, you have the special experience of learning cities in the world. Wednesday, we present the creative cities network of UNESCO. Today, you have to integrate the creative cities with the learning cities, and you have a contribution of the coordination of learning cities in Italy. Isabella Calvagna, UNESCO Learning City representative, is from Torino municipality. I like to present Isabella. Isabella, with a PhD in pedagogy and psychology with honors at the Ludwig Maximilian University of Munich, and a master's degree from University of Turin in foreign languages and literature and with management curriculum, Isabella Calvagna has been working since 1982 for Torino Municipality Education Department. A research study with LMU University in Munich has been published in most universities and is currently used as a reference for research on the field of quality education in Europe. From year 2000 until 2005, she has been working in European projects with the role of mentor, Leonardo projects, and has been working in the field of school and vocational training and the lifelong learning. She is presently involved in international projects with other departments, such as Department of Culture at the Smart City at Innovative Division, under which the LEA Learning Technology Accelerator, a project targeted at innovative teaching, has been implemented. She is the international focal point and contact for the Unesco group of learning cities activities, global network of learning cities, and the representative of the municipality attending international meeting abroad and hosting foreign delegation visiting Torino. Well, we have two experiences that are presented now, and we like to Isabella present his contribution. Hello, Isabella.
Thank you very much.
You can start.
Hello. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and please give me a chance, first of all, to thank Professor Orefice and Giulietta Haider for this invitation and to represent the UNESCO Learning Cities in Italy. And thank you very much for inviting us. This is an honor for us. And I will share a presentation today where I will try to make you aware of which is our activity and our programs for the future. And so I'm going to share my screen now. Let me see if we are ready for this. Okay, so as Professor Orefice just said, I've been working for the municipality of Torino for many years now, and with an experience in Hamburg for UNESCO Global Network of Learning Cities for the Institute of Lifelong Learning. So today I'm going to show you a little bit of the interaction between the global network and the Italian Learning Cities network. As you know, the global network of learning cities is formed by 230 cities in the world and from 67 countries. So all the countries have organized themselves to contribute to the let's say, to the implementation of the targets of the Agenda 2030. So which are the pillars of the UNESCO Gnlc? First of all is the inclusive, to build up an inclusive learning in the formal and informal education system, revitalizing lifelong learning in families and in the communities. And as Professor Montecucco just said, it is so important, the background and the family background and education for the well-being of people. Thank you very much, Professor Montecucco, for giving us as well a scientific approach. Without it, we couldn't understand why it is so important that education and family are present for the well-being of individuals. So to make effective learning effective for the market and in the labor market is one of our milestones, let's say. And this can happen thanks to innovative learning technologies that today help us a lot. And this has been very clear during the pandemic, where innovation learning technology have helped a lot the school system to overcome the problem. And end of all, but last not least, is to guarantee a quality of education which is inclusive for all. So, but what is a learning city? First of all, we needed a definition. So a city that places lifelong learning at the center of its policy for sustainable urban development. So we see here the straight connection between education, policies, and urban regeneration, which is not only architectural, but has to start from the individuals. Which are our milestones? I'm not going to repeat the SDGs as we know them all. I would like only to focus on, let's say, our goals. Our SDGs is mainly the number 4 and the number 11, which is number 4 is, excuse me, I've just gone too fast. Okay, here I am again. So SDG number 4, I just summarize it briefly. It's about inclusive and fair quality education and promoting opportunities, lifelong learning for all. So this is one of our milestones. And number 11 is about making cities and settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and human sustainable. So we see here the interconnection of education with urban regeneration. So the next one, sorry, I have some little technical problem. Let me see if I can go ahead. Okay. So in what happened in year 2019, just before the pandemic, we fixed some funding principles for our learning cities. And this was, first of all, to ensure an inclusive education for all. So especially for vulnerable people, for people with disabilities, and trying to help young people at risk implementing the school to work transition policies. And this happened as well thanks to the participation in learning digital skills. And then we monitored and fostering access to learning and strengthening social inclusion for people with disabilities, as I said, and improve infrastructure to encourage accessibility. From this, we see clearly that there must be an interaction between what school is and what is infrastructure. So reducing architectural and communicative barriers, it's all connected. We cannot forget that these two must go together. Okay, the next one. After Medellin in 2010, we were, let's say, told, but it was, let's say, a common intent to divide the 230 cities in thematic clusters, because it was easier to work in smaller groups, as you can understand. So the 4 clusters were related to the SDGs, were equitable and inclusive learning cities, employment and entrepreneurship, and then to make cities healthy and green. And the 4th was about learning, city planning, and management. If you want to have more information about this, there is plenty of information in the website of the UNESCO website of the Institute of Lifelong Learning. Okay. So what happened in Italy? So we were already in 2019, we were 3 cities, Fermo. So Torino was the first, then Fermo joined us after a while, and Palermo. You understand from here, if you know where the 3 cities are, we had north, center, and south of Italy. So a good representation of what could be the educational policies in Italy. So we decided to create a coordination among the cities and possibly to enlarge this network in Italy. So here you see the three representatives, maybe you know them, and Carlo Nofri, Professor from Fermo, Professor Angelini from Palermo, and architect Pier Giorgio Turi from Torino. So the next, what happened later? Lucca, we have just heard Professor Montecucco from Lucca. So we were very happy to have Lucca on board and Trieste on board. So we decided some common actions to how to participate effectively in the UNESCO Gnlc clusters. And we organized a periodical meeting, exchanging the best practices in Italy, and participating to events and international conference. And the next one is going to be very soon at the end of October. So if you want to follow this conference, it will be very nice to have you on board as well. So we can send you the link if you wish. It will be really interesting. It's a hybrid conference, and we can follow it online as well. Then I would like to talk about Torino very briefly. I'm going to say just very briefly the main targets of the 5 cities. So in Torino, we are part of the cluster employment and entrepreneurship. Torino has a long industrial tradition in the automotive sector, aerospace, etc. So we are very much linked to industry. And for this reason, we were included. We are coordinating with Chengdu in China, this cluster. And a publication will be issued at the end of the year, and it's financed by UNESCO. We are part, as Professor Orefice said, of the UNESCO Creative City. Last week, the design of the city event took place in Torino. The cities of Saint-Étienne were invited, and the other cities being part of this creative network of design of the city. We have another project, which is a lab, a project mobility lab, which makes the city, let's say, more sustainable in terms of transport, and to make the city greener and to make it healthier, safer. So this was discussed last week with the Creative City Network. And last but not least, the Torino City Lab, which is an open lab for the citizenship, for innovation and community needs. It's a real place where people and companies can go there and try, for instance, innovation technology tools. It's a real place where people can meet and where we can understand the community needs. It's been implemented under the LEA project, which is the Learning Accelerator Technology Hub that we carried out with Sweden, Finland, and other regions in Europe. Okay, then next comes Fermo. Fermo is the moment is the coordinating city of our network, Italian network. They are included in the cluster on equity and social inclusion. One very interesting point, which is mentioned here, is the first city that made university possible to deaf people, a deaf-friendly university in a deaf-friendly city. It's really something new, and they experimented as well the first degree course for international interpreters in sign languages, which is co-financed by MIUR. And this is the reason why today our coordinator, Carlo Nofri, could not be here. I am pleased to speak on behalf of him and of my city. Okay, it's a national partnership, of course, that helps really people with problems or disabilities, in this case, deaf people to get into school, so not to be left behind. I think it's a very good example, a good practice which could be implemented in other cities. So now the last is Palermo. Palermo is very close, as you know, is in the south of Italy. Very close, I would say, to the north of Africa countries. So they have been facing a radical cultural change due to migration. So it's an inclusive city, and that's why they joined the cluster Global Citizenship and Social Inclusion. And the main efforts and commitment are to include and to let people participate with public institutions to the life of the territory and the citizens, and they have a civic platform where people and citizens can at all levels, let's say, be supported and get helped if they need. They have tried to ensure social cohesion at all levels to guarantee freedom and well-being that is so important for individuals. Trying to foster economic and cultural prosperity, reinforce the sustainable development of the territory and citizenship, and of course to guarantee literacy and free access education for all in public school. This is not as given for granted, because as I said, many migrants came to Palermo, and you can understand how difficult it must be having linguistic barrier to integrate them into the school. Okay, what about Trieste? Trieste is our partner in the network. They joined the network in 2019 and are included as well in more clusters, especially the one in education for sustainable development, entrepreneurship, and green and healthy learning, cities, and well-being. I'm sorry for this long list, but I think we will be sharing all this information so you can access them later. Trieste focused its policies on sciences. Every year, the Festival of Science takes place in Trieste, and the information to citizens about the positive impact on innovation and sustainability has been one of the main commitments of the municipality. Of course, formal and informal education and lifelong learning is an approach which is not forgotten, and with an interaction with social services that support the integration, social inclusion, and citizen well-being. And of course, Trieste participate with us to national meetings, then they promote locals and in the international network. Now, I'm just briefly going to speak about Lucca because I didn't want to be too long, as I knew that Professor Montecucco was there. Sorry. Oh my God, my computer is playing. So let me go back to Lucca. Okay, two important dates for Lucca. I just want to remember. In October 2018, the municipality promoted, and the UNESCO Club of Lucca promoted a meeting, Learning City, a possibility for lifelong learning. This was, let's say, a first step. The Italian network was invited. The director of UNESCO, David Acciorena, was also there, and the General Secretary of the UNESCO National Commission, Enrico Vicenti, and all the local authority were invited. So the activity of the municipality was already intense. The UNESCO Club was already working a lot. In fact, 1 year later, in September 2018, UNESCO was announced to be with Trieste, a learning city, was awarded with the learning cities title with other 53 cities from 27 countries. So in total, we are now about 230 cities in the world. Let me just spend a word on this picture. This picture became very famous because it shows a nurse during the COVID-19 outbreak, and which was exhausted at the end of the day, and in Italy became the symbol of the resilience of the cities. During this period of time, our network, Learning Cities, created and made some webinars related to the city's responses to the pandemic. And you can see the registration of the actions in the website of UNESCO Institute of Lifelong Learning, where each city was interviewed and explained what happened. After this, we are at the end almost of my presentation, which is the current scenario. Resilience, we have written development and sustainability, lifelong learning and adult education. These are the educational policies that we have tried at community level to implement, working on the basis of the local policies at national level to defeat the pandemic and trying to get over of this very difficult. We have today many Italians here among the panelists, but I think all the world was shocked. So we are promoting actions of a common resilience policies, trying to mobilize all our UNESCO networks. And here it's only a summary. I'm not going to read you this. It's a summary of what the UNESCO heritage means in Italy in terms of network. I'm just going to read what was a quotation. That is to say, an impressive list of assets, awards, and institutions that in an ideal cultural security council at the United Nations would certainly give Italy the right to occupy a permanent seat. So this is a quotation from UNESCO, and let's say a target for or a milestone for our activity. Our missions of the future. So we want to open up this Italian network to the other cities. So we are only 5. It's not only because we are one of the nation which are most represented in terms of number of cities. So I wouldn't say just 5, but we are already 5. But we want to involve more cities in Italy. Launching a social media campaign to spread the knowledge and practice of the Agenda 2030, and starting from school and involving all the UNESCO network. Implementing all forms of networking, of course, including those online to spread the principles of UNESCO Learning Cities. So this was all. And thank you very much for your attention. And if you want to join the network, we are the best people to be addressed. So spread the word, spread the UNESCO Gnlc network. Thank you very much indeed.
Oh, thanks a lot, Isabella. Your contribution is very clear. Now we know a lot on lifelong learning cities, and is another integrated approach. Before we noted the psychological approach, but in a complex way. And now we have learning cities in a territorial approach. You know, now before I change on the last three contribution on the experience in Tunisia, I like to pose some question and speaker on about this first part of our symposium. We know that there are a big connection with intangible knowledge, with the tangible knowledge. Intangible knowledge is exactly the mind work. Tangible knowledge are results of our mind knowledge. We spoke about this relationship the next Wednesday. If you like a few minutes only, because we have the last hour is for Tunisia experiences, we propose to exchange between participants this question. Is it important education in this work of resilience or regeneration in this territorial approach of regeneration? It is a relationship with education, and also education and mind work and also mindfulness have some relationship with the territorial approach, with the social and cultural problems in which we live in our communities, in local communities. If you like to answer this question, because you have not question in the chat at the moment, you have 2 minutes starting from Professor Mohsen. You have 2 minutes, all speaker, if you like to reflect on this relation between education approach and the territorial approach, on resilience, on sustainable development, on regeneration post-COVID experience. Mohsen, Professor Mohsen, do you like to give some suggestions?
Yes. Yes, Professor Paolo Orefice. Thank you very much for coordinating the sessions. And we have, do you hear me clearly?
Yeah, it's clear.
Do you hear me clearly?
Yes, please.
All right. I believe education is very important in the learning and implementing sustainable development in both cities, and also integrating, as you mentioned, territorial collaboration between different parties. You cannot bring about, as Professor Mario mentioned, from ego to eco is very important, because it's the education will make the difference. And as also Professor Paola, Puma, and Isabel mentioned about the learning cities, these all are important in the big umbrella of creating sustainable cultural cities. So I giving and attaining sustainable development goals and bring about more learning cities and more creative cities, more cultural and socially inclusive cities. Thank you very much.
Thank you a lot for your suggestion. It's very interesting, your point of view. Professor Paola, Puma, and Stefania, like to answer following the good reflection of Professor Mohsen. Please, Paola and Stefania.
Yes, since from 5 years, I am teacher of visual education, drawing intended as visual education in the Faculty of Education at the University of Florence. In this course, I decided to test and include a short part about the cultural heritage education. And I need to say that it was the most successful part in the course, and really really appreciated and requested by the students to be deep and study in the thesis and so and so. So this part, it became the half part of the course in the years. The students, they are able to appreciate the link between education, between sustainability education, between the city life. Of course, in the Faculty of Education, they are not able and they are not learned to appreciate the territorial, the built environment, features, and so and so. Of course, we spread it in the Faculty of Architecture mostly. But in general, I can say that students, if they are challenged with this kind of attention, they are really, really participating. So for example, I managed for them before the pandemic suspension, I managed with them walking through the city, searching for street artists, spontaneous open artworks on the walls. It's a modern language. It's a talking language with them, for them. They really appreciate it. So it's in our commitment to stimulate them on these themes. This is my opinion.
Thanks a lot, Professor Paola Puma. I don't know if Stefania can say something about this.
Yes, I second what Professor Paola Puma mentioned.
Please,
okay.
Professor. Sorry, Stefania.
Sorry.
Just a moment. Yes, Professor Moment, you can speak.
Paolo, non ti sento, scusami.
Tu non senti, noi lo sentiamo.
Ok, aspetta. Ok.
Now Professor Mohsen is speaking. Professor Mohsen, can you open your audio? Okay.
Yes,
perfect.
I second Professor Paola Puma view and option on the importance of adding into the curricula courses to educate students about sustainable development. For example, I added one course in our curricula at the Department of Architecture to educate students, architects, about the link between architecture and sustainable development. And one of the outcome of this project was presented in Barcelona at the Global University of Innovation called GUNI Network, in collaboration with the UNESCO. And my students went there and presented their work, and they were well received because GUNI and the UNESCO found out that it's very important that sustainable development is an integral part of the educational curriculum. So here comes the importance of learning for cities and also citizens' role in developing sustainability within reach. Thank you very much.
It's very important what you said, Professor Mohsen, about the higher education of our students in this complex approach. Thanks. Stefania, do you like to explain?
I can give another suggestions because in my experience there are not only people that have a formal education but also an informal education. In fact, when in the speech we say that there are intangible damage that we have to contrast. We have to practice a participative action that involve citizens, involve their knowledge. It is very important because in a transdisciplinary approach, I have to implement their knowledge, their local knowledge, their intangible heritage, that is the knowledge that they carry, and also with the discipline, the disciplinary knowledge. So this is a very important aspect that it should be focused in it, I think.
Oh, thank you a lot for your reflection, Stefania. This relationship between education of mind and education, social education, cultural education, territorial level. What do you think, Professor Nitamo and Isabella, about this double relation, the work of a mind inside and the work of a mind outside in social, cultural, and working everyday life? Just very, very strictly, please, because I have to change.
In the Gaia project, we have 12 meeting. In the first, we teach how to feel yourself from inside. In the second, we teach body awareness, how to feel the blockage and to release them. In the third, we teach emotional intelligence in positive and in negative way, how to share not just the pleasure and the joy, but even your problem, your anxiety or your sadness. And this is creating a very deep group. The fourth part is just cultural creative. We did with the university in Arezzo a very large 1,800 people in all Italy, with 83 questions about the new paradigm, the new way of evolution of cultural evolution. And there was evident, we did it in United States, in Italy, in French, in Hungary, in Japan, in many countries. And the way is the point is to become a cultural creative. When you feel yourself, when you open an emotional intelligent capacity to share your vision and to collaborate to create something, then you really want to create. And all the classroom, the young people, the adult, at the end, they just really want to be part of the society and to create something. Can be to help, to do ecology, to do culture. No, it doesn't matter the point, but to become a creative part of an evolutionary movement of culture in the world. So it's really appreciated and is really happening.
Thank you, Professor Montecucco.
I would like to spend sorry, Paolo.
No, yes, please. Yeah, very short.
I just want to, yes, short. I want to add a couple of things only to what has been already said. I think we have to think in a new way, especially I'm saying again was what Professor Montecucco said, ego and eco. I think we have to think about a new ego and a new eco after the pandemic. In Italy, we have a very large part of the population which is in poverty at the moment. So I think we don't have to forget the vulnerable people and all the people which could be left behind. You know that the rate of occupation in Italy or employment was among young people was very low. Already before the pandemic, and after this, we have higher, unfortunately, rates of nets, or the people, the young people who are not in education or in lifelong learning, no education and no chances of a future. So I would like to say that now we have a bigger responsibility. I mean, before the Global Network Learning City started before in 2013. We are now in a new area, and we have to think new. A new ego. Something happened, and we cannot forget this. This is only what I would like to say, and then that's why the education and the urban regeneration have to go together, but in a new way. So we have to make up our minds and to make this happen, because the numbers have, unfortunately, are different nowadays. I don't know if Professor Montecucco as well, I would like to export this model of Gaia project, not only in a small place, but in a, in a bigger, at public schools, I would say, from a very young age. Okay, I'm just stop myself because I think it's very long.
Thanks, Isabella. This topic, we discuss a lot on this topic in our congress, about the complex knowledge, about the complex intelligence, about relative intelligence, where you can join with one bridge all the creativity of our mind, outside and inside. And for this, thanks a lot for your contribution. Now, as is a program, we concentrate on the experience in Tunisia. We have a pleasure to have a big conference from Professor Mohsen about the Egypt. Now we concentrated on the Tunis and the Tunisia. And as you have to distinguish English speakers from French speaker, now we start with Tunisia, a citizen journey for cultural, social, and urban regeneration. But we started the first speaker speak in English. But we are finished after the next speaker to speak in English, and we continue in French speaking, and also the question at the end, because as you say, that facilitated the translation of 2 blocks in 112 languages for participants of all parts of the world. Well, I like to present now Madame Wedan Mary, that present a contribution about the spatial and social transformation of the Medina of Tunis. I like to present short words about the curricula of Wedan Mary. She has a PhD in urban planning, design, and policy at Polytechnic of Milano. Is an international senior researcher with transdisciplinary research experiences consistent with her information and communication technology studies and research background. Mary co-founded in 2006 Pontes, Diaspora Association in Italy, in which she has been working since 2015 as director of the Migration for Development Unit. She has been working in the public protection context within several EU and national multidisciplinary projects, focusing her research on engineering solutions for knowledge on disaster mitigation and adaptation production, sharing maintenance and usage by a variety of stakeholders. More specifically, she has been working on the creation of tools to enhance societal capacity to learn from past successes and mistakes, and update its knowledge on natural extremism and the climate change potential consequences. Her current research interests and project activities face to spatial and social transformation in contemporary cities, and more particularly the exploration of collective intelligence and the evolution of citizenship as a link around which national solidarity is reinvented, detached of a particular culture and based on the sharing of common rights and duties. She is co-author of several international publications and of the book La rivolta dei dittatoriati, Edition Messaggera, Facing the Tunisian Revolution and the role of social media in social transformation. Please, Wajdan, Mary, you can speak in English, and after you continue in French. Thanks, please.
Good afternoon to whom is in Europe, and good morning to who is connected from South America. And I would like firstly to thank Professor Orefice and Professor Julieta Haider for their invitation. We are, as a team, here are my colleagues, Afef Hagi and Mohamed Amin Ben Said, very happy to participate today to the Third World Congress of Transdisciplinarity, to this specific panel that you offered to us in order to speak about what is going on Tunisia. So I would like to also say hello to all the panelists and thank all of them for their contributions, very interesting. And now I would share with you my screen. So as Professor Orefice said, I am here also as a member of the diaspora of Tunisia in Italy, and also as an activist of this diaspora civil society, and also as a researcher. So today I would like to share with you some of the results of common research that I dealt with my colleagues, Afef Hagi and Mohamed Amin Ben Said, as a transdisciplinary group. And my contribution will present you some of the spatial and social transformations that happened in Tunisia, and specifically as a case study of the Medina of Tunis. And my at least part of let's say research, interrogation and questioning regards the citizens' action and engagement and how it is participating to the current social and spatial transformations occurring in the Medina of Tunis since the 2011 revolution. So the case study was chosen in an effort to examine these current transformations occurring in the central part of the Medina and also in its faubourg. The revolution and the democratic transition for us consists as a crisis moment. This word is has emerged also not only in research but also in the public sphere in the last 2 years with the pandemic crisis. But for us, the Tunisian transformations and the emergence of new, let's say, behaviors, social constructions, urban transformations and regeneration, political transformations also, and so on in Tunisia, has been an opportunity for us not only to participate to it, but also to observe and to follow the crisis as a moment also of opportunity of knowledge. And as Edgar Morin said in his theory of crisis, this kind of moment, this kind of changing moment can be a laboratory to study as in vitro evolutionary process. And the crisis implements and inevitably one by the other, disorganization and reorganization, said Morin. For us, this kind of reflection and let's say way of looking at our world in which we are participants as citizens and also as researchers looking at this world and observing it, let's say that we would like to share with you our observations And on my part, and introducing also the two contributions of my colleagues, the factor of change has been the 2011 Tunisian revolution. This was the moment of beginning of this transformation. And the idea is, at least for me, to try to understand how the democratic transition that we are still living in Tunisia, and all of you know that in these last months we are also living new political crisis and also a construction of new behaviors at institutional levels, and facing also economic crisis added to the pandemic crisis in Tunisia. So let's say that the transformation is ongoing, is still ongoing. Things did not finish. We are 10 years after the 2011 dignity and freedom revolution that happened in Tunisia. And we are, all of us as citizens in Tunisia and also of the diaspora, following and participating to this transformation. So the reflection we would like to share here is how the democratic transition may allow reappropriation of the heritage by Tunisian and to allow also mobilization around this issue in the Medina area of Tunis, especially in the residential neighborhoods, what we call the faubourg of the Medina. Just to give a small to open a small parenthesis on how was the situation of the heritage according to a social point of view. During the dictatorship period, what we were living as population was looking at an appropriation, illegally appropriation from various pieces of Tunisian heritage, like Roman ruins, Punic ruins, etc. And by the ruling family at the time, we are speaking about 25 years of ruling family by Ben Ali family, and which also purchased at ridiculous prices and, of course, appropriated high land values of national heritage and the Nesne. The abuse in the transformation of land use was a common practice for this family and its allies, and this was known by the population. After 2011, what happened? We had the chance to have a new constitution that also considers the cultural heritage in it. So our young constitution from 2014 states that the state has to protect cultural heritage and to guarantee the right of future generations to this heritage. So let me say also that this constitution has been written with a very large citizenship engagement and participation. So it was not emanating from only top-down, with a top-down process, but with a very large contribution of the civil society. Where are we? We are in Tunis. The Medina is considered a city, a single neighborhood, a central margin, a heritage area. Locally, we call it the Arab city. We call it also the souks, that are our markets, the Qasba. And the faubourgs of the Medina are the belts of the Medina, are all around the Medina. These are the neighborhoods that we have been studying in this research, and we are speaking about an urban fabric that inherited some functions that are commercial and residential, and the traditional fabric overlaps them closely while isolating them tightly. We have the commerce that are, let's say, on the roads, on the small roads, and the residential area is behind the commercial one. We speak about an area that also produces, not only trades. We have 40 souks and 16 corporations inside the Medina. The urban experience has evolved in time. In the aftermath of the independence, the state has bought and refurbished the residences of old families of Tunis, in order to use them as prestigious administrative buildings. Then in the 60s, the territorial appropriation that I told you now of the patrimoine of Tunis by the state and also by some foreign investors institutionalized the Medina as a defined touristic urban space. And while the historical space as a spatial unit was threatened by destruction, the touristic manna, this chance, has become the guarantee of refurbishing the urban fabric to meet international customers. Then during the 70s and 70s mainly, and also during the 80s, we assisted to Taudification, localization, a presence of what we have Ukela in Tunisia, caravanserai, a type of hotel with rooms rented on a daily or weekly basis. These are not very high level offers. Ruralization, bazardization phenomena, massive accompanying the massive rural exodus to Tunis, coupled with the rejection of the elites to this area. However, in 1979, the Medina of Tunis became a World Heritage Center, a UNESCO World Heritage Center. And some urban programs have been, renewal projects have been implemented in the faubourg of the Medina, all around the belt, and which are the walls of the old city, in Babsouiqa, Halfawin, Hafsiya, and so on. So this was the evolution. And as here very briefly I introduced, the action on the regeneration of these areas have been only managed by the institutions and by the state. This is a picture of the Medina of Tunis. Today, what is going on? After the revolution, after the, let's say, this political transformation that happened in Tunisia with the arrival of democratic institutions, elections, a new parliament, elected president, a new constitution, and so on. What we are looking at in terms of social transformation in this central area of Tunis is that many young Tunisois, so people coming from Tunis, originally from Tunis, that have moved in the decades I told you before from the central area to outside, or also abroad, they are coming back to live in their ancestors' houses that have been abandoned, or to open them as new cultural spaces and neighborhood associations. I will share with you some of these experiences, to which we have also participated as an association in Tunis. And also another phenomenon is that behind the slowly crumbling facades, there are signs of a nascent reverse migration of young entrepreneurs who had never lived in the Medina, but who are investing in the properties and restoring them to run boutique hotels, cafes, and art galleries, drawn by the history and business potential of the place, but also, of course, by the context of liberty and freedom of doing this, because of the new laws that have been written, or because of the absence also of the huge corruption that have been managing the urban areas during the dictatorship period. So who is inhabiting now the Medina? We are assisting to a cultural and social mixed environment that is emerging, with low-income families and also some squatters in some areas, small traders, new people coming back and living in houses inherited from their ancestors, reopening them and refurbishing them, people investing in the Medina for its charm or for the establishment of restaurants, as I said before, high-quality lodgings, maison d'hôtes, and mainly new civil society organizations that are developing cultural and social activities. Also street artists, as you were speaking before of this art that emerged in the cities during crisis. And what I would like to share with you, with the pictures that I will present you, is this sort of search of authenticity in time of inauthenticity that we have been facing during the dictatorship period in Tunisia. So all during the first months of 2011 and 2012, what was coming out on the walls of Tunis was the expression, the free expression of artists, of street artists that had never been existing in Tunis before 2011. It was not allowed, it was punished to do it. And of course, the censorship that we have been living for decades did not permit us to take the walls, also to speak on them, as was the censorship on the walls of Facebook, the Facebook of the social media, or our urban areas, not in virtual, but in real dimensions. So what we saw is the emergence of this expression, and there are many research that have been dealt in the last years to collect this street art, and they are published. So women speaking about their feminism and what they want to express against the dictatorship during this, at least this inscription have been developed during the revolution weeks. And we saw also some new animals going to live in the streets of Tunis, like Willis from Tunis, our favorite cat from Nadia Khiari, who is an artist. She became a street artist during the period of the revolution, not to publish her work, to publish it in an anonymous way. And then now we know her, of course, and Nadia Khiari have been moving her cat in the streets of Tunis to call to the end of the dictatorship, to the torture. Here I share with you a very interesting experience that have been developed before the first election, free election that we had for our Constitutional Assembly, where on the walls of the Medina, we saw coming back the portrait of the ex-dictator, and for a few days, for a few hours, people were astonished to see him come back, because of course, as you know, in dictatorship times, we have the images of the dictator. We had his big images all around the cities. So he came back, and then the message was coming out as they took away the picture, this very bad image from the past of the presence of the dictator, and saying here, be aware, dictatorship can come back, so go to vote. And this was part of a sensibilization and awareness to participation to the democratic transition in Tunisia. If we look to the aspect of the patrimonium that I said before, we have been that has been stolen to Tunisian all during that period. Of course, the patrimonium is there, and we share it. But what we said, what I said before, and what we were living is very complex to explain, and it merits also to have more time to explore what means to steal patrimonium to people who have it there on the walls and in the urban fabric. But as you said before, the patrimoine is not only tangible patrimonium, it's everything that coming from from our ancestors. And what interests us is that the behind the wheel of patrimonialization of a historic space, there is the claim of a national cultural identity, and this relationship with our identity, with our patrimoine, has been attacked all these in all that days. And also the concept of heritage, the principle of inheritance, that is one of those links constantly necessary for any social construction, in the sense that only the tradition allows the temporal integration of society, and this has been attacked. After 2011, and but also before, we saw the restorations, as I told you before. But what happened after 2000?
We're done.
Sorry?
Have you at the end of your presentation?
Yes, I will show you the pictures. So what happened is the restoration of and conservation interventions, external and internal restoration of houses, reuse of old ceramics and stones. The Arab style remains the main reference of this restoration, or this regeneration, with conservation of Italian architecture and style of the colonial period. So what happens is this: urban conservation and regeneration that have been developed mainly by some private actions, like here, and also by social enterprises like this Chambre d'Hôte, that have been developed by associations, and with the mixture of modernity and tradition, the birth of cultural spaces, mixing restaurant and café social, culturel, the birth of new social and cultural organizations. Here, each of these is a different organization, and that is presented. The advocacy for a better local environment emerged in the Medina of Tunis. I'm speaking about dozens of actions coming from the civil society, from bottom up actions, and calling also for all traditions to be restored against the censorship that have been created on them. New public spaces have been emerging, open, free for young people, and also for not only youngs that are active there. So last slide, what we saw, what we can say is that this general citizenship is today interested and active in its interest to the cultural heritage. The local community is developing its community belonging to the neighborhoods through these actions, and the artists and the civil society are have appropriated again the city in order to produce and to consume culture. This is at least from the social and cultural capital part. There are many aspects on the economic one, but today I wanted to share with you these aspects. So I thank you very much for your kind attention, and I'm here for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. You have the time is fluently. It's very rich, your contribution. Now we continue on Tunisia, and I close it with English language, and we start with French. Alors, on va continuer avec la Tunisie, un voyage des citoyens pour la régénération culturelle, sociale et urbaine. Alors, je donne la parole à Ben Saïd Mohamed Amin, c'est de l'association de sauvegarde de la Médina de Bizerte depuis 2008. Co-animation d'un chantier bénévole avec l'Union française Rempart dans le cadre du projet de l'ASMA Bizerte de restauration du monument de la prison de Médina. Un chantier bénévole a eu lieu et a regroupé 18 bénévoles tunisiens français. Le but du projet est de promouvoir l'implication des jeunes et favoriser les échanges. Mission, initiation des bénévoles aux techniques de maçonnerie traditionnelle et pilotage des travaux. Pilotage des chantiers, de restauration des biens historiques dans le cadre du projet commun avec d'autres acteurs de la société civile. Alors, s'il vous plaît, Mohamed Amin, à vous la parole. please. Vous pouvez commencer.
Oui, je n'avais pas activé le micro. Merci à vous pour cette opportunité. Merci pour l'invitation. Je vais commencer par partager l'écran. Voilà. Donc, je voudrais parler de la mise en valeur des quartiers historiques en Tunisie à travers une approche alternative et citoyenne, à travers des expériences et l'interaction entre la société civile et les autorités. La présentation va se faire à travers 4 exemples de projets qui ont été menés par la société civile, où ils ont essayé de participer à leur manière à la régénération de leur quartier historique, d'une manière non conventionnelle et parfois expérimentale. Je vais commencer par la présentation de l'une des associations dans laquelle je milite, qui est l'association Édifice et Mémoire, Édifice à la fin S et Mémoire à la fin S, pour traduire l'héritage pluriel de la Tunisie. La meilleure présentation qui peut être faite pour cette association serait son premier projet, qui est l'Observatoire collaboratif du patrimoine, une action menée avec le soutien de l'Unesco et d'un laboratoire de recherche de l'École nationale d'architecture et d'urbanisme, où l'association a voulu avoir une approche pluridisciplinaire du patrimoine, ou une approche qui n'est pas nécessairement académique et pas nécessairement juridique. C'est une approche qui est basée sur la mémoire collective, sur le lien affectif que peut avoir chaque citoyen envers son patrimoine, envers cet héritage, et puisque nous sommes convaincus que ce lien est le meilleur argument de préservation du patrimoine. Donc, je vous explique rapidement le projet. Nous avons déployé sur le territoire tunisien que nous avons divisé en secteurs une quinzaine d'observateurs pour collecter des informations sur des sites qui ont une valeur patrimoniale, mais qui ne sont pas nécessairement répertoriés ou protégés. Nous avons mis en place une grille de collecte des informations de chaque édifice, qui va de la localisation géographique, de la description, du style, du nom de l'architecte s'il est connu, de la date de construction. Après ça, il y a eu la restitution de ce travail-là, de ces 15 observateurs, pour après collecter toutes ces données-là et les mettre en ligne sur un site collaboratif que vous pouvez visiter, qui s'appelle édificeetmémoire.com, où il y a ces informations géolocalisées et où, par exemple, pour vous montrer l'aspect vraiment différent, l'approche vraiment différente par rapport au patrimoine, vous pouvez, par exemple, faire votre zoom pour trouver un bunker de la Deuxième Guerre mondiale qui n'a pas nécessairement une valeur architecturale qui en fait un patrimoine de grande valeur pour certains, mais qui a une histoire par rapport à la communauté qui habite ce quartier-là et un certain attachement. Donc, ça, c'était pour l'association Édifice et Mémoire comme introduction. Là, on va passer vers un deuxième projet qui a été mené par cette association-là, où le partenaire était l'Institut Goethe de Tunis, qui s'appela Patrimoine 1 et qui a concerné le casino de la ville de Hammamet. Le casino de la ville de Hammamet est une ville de banlieue de Tunis, une ville balnéaire qui jadis était la résidence du bey de Tunis pendant l'hiver. Depuis l'instauration de la République en 1958, tout le patrimoine beylical en Tunisie n'a pas reçu l'attention qu'il méritait. Donc, tous ces palais, ce casino, ces grandes résidences ont été abandonnées, parfois squattées, parfois démolies. Et dans cette ville, il y a le casino qui a été squatté puis évacué, mais qui a gardé un certain attachement par rapport à la population et qui aspirait à le voir dans un meilleur état, vers un meilleur devenir. C'est de là qu'est venue l'idée d'organiser des rencontres autour du patrimoine pour plaider la cause de cet édifice-là, pour en faire un lieu de débat concernant son devenir. Des élus locaux ont participé, des habitants du quartier, des riverains, la société civile et aussi des conférenciers des universités tunisiennes et des organismes de sauvegarde du patrimoine en Tunisie pour parler de ce site-là, à côté d'artistes qui ont exposé et qui ont accompli des performances. Je vous laisse rapidement voir cette courte vidéo pour voir un peu l'ambiance de cet événement-là.
Il n'y a pas de voix? Mohamed, il n'y a pas de voix?
Si, normalement, il y a la voix. Je vais...
Tu peux augmenter?
Oui, dites-moi si ça va là. C'est bon ou pas?
On n'écoute pas la voix. Vous écoutez?
Bon, ce n'est pas grave, c'est de la musique, mais il n'y a pas de prise de parole.
D'accord, d'accord.
Ok,
Tu peux
pardon.
continuer tranquille.
Parfait.
Tranquille. Tu peux
Parfait.
continuer tranquille.
Voilà. Est-ce que vous m'entendez? Allô?
Allô? Oui, on t'écoute.
Oui, très bien, merci. Donc, suite à cet événement-là, à travers la concertation qu'il y a eu avec les habitants suite à ce lobbying qu'il y a eu, il y a eu budgétisation au niveau de la commune pour la consolidation des lieux en attendant un projet de réaffectation. Donc, c'est à travers ce genre de projet qu'on a eu une médiation entre les habitants et les autorités pour cerner ce projet et avancer avec. Donc, juste là. Très bien. Là, on va passer à une autre ville, à un autre contexte et à un autre projet et à une autre association. Là, on se trouve dans la ville de Bizerte, une ville côtière du nord de la Tunisie, dans un contexte très particulier, celui de 2011-2012, les 2 premières années qui ont suivi la révolution en Tunisie, où toutes les formes, toutes les tranches de la société se sont exprimées et avec parfois des dérives qui ont été, qui ont eu des effets assez néfastes. Et parmi ces tranches de la société, ces tranches de la société, il y a eu des salafistes qui ont sévi pendant 1 à 2 années et où il y a eu certaines attaques sur des lieux soufis, surtout des mosquées qui contiennent des tombeaux. Il y a eu, bon, je vous montre certaines attaques malheureuses, par exemple à Sidi Bou Saïd, où l'essentiel des attaques était visé à détruire les tombeaux qui existaient dans les mosquées. Et là, cette association a voulu mener un projet de restauration de cette mosquée-là, Sidi Ahmed Tijani, qui est un lieu où il y a une importante mémoire collective, surtout pour les femmes des quartiers historiques de Bizerte, parce que c'est là qu'elles avaient certaines activités les vendredis. Mais le défi était que cette mosquée-là contenait un nombre de tombeaux de magistrats de la ville qui avaient été enterrés là au début du XXe siècle et un peu avant. Et qu'il y avait de sérieuses menaces sur ces tombeaux-là et sur l'authenticité des lieux. Et l'expérience un peu unique qu'a menée l'association, puisqu'elle ne pouvait pas compter à cette époque-là sur un État fort pour la protéger elle et protéger les lieux, c'était de mener un projet de restauration avec un nombre très réduit d'ouvriers qui se résume à un seul maître artisan qui a mené pendant 1 an et demi son projet de restauration avec les portes closes pour passer de cet état-là, de la mosquée, vers cet état-là, une fois l'opération de restauration achevée. Et la mosquée n'a finalement réouvert ses portes que fin 2013, lorsque lorsque les autorités ont réussi à prendre le dessus dans la rue et surtout dans ces quartiers-là. On va passer à un deuxième projet, aussi à Bizerte. Et là, je voudrais tout d'abord contextualiser. On parle d'une ville qui a une histoire un peu lourde au niveau militaire, surtout au XXe siècle. Là, vous avez 3 affiches, 2 affiches de propagande et une troisième qui est la une d'un magazine. À gauche, une affiche italienne qui date des années 30 où on pointe le danger que constitue la prise le contrôle de la ville de Bizerte par les forces françaises sur la Sicile. La seconde affiche est celle des Marines américains qui montre l'une des scènes de leur prise de la ville en 1943. Et une troisième qui montre une scène de la bataille de Bizerte de juillet 61 avec la une de Paris Match. Ça, c'est pour vous dire que d'un côté, la ville a une forte histoire, mais surtout, elle a un héritage au niveau des infrastructures militaires hérité par les forces françaises, qui a fait que l'urbanisme de la ville est vraiment étouffé et que la fonction première de cette ville-là a été et est encore militaire. Alors que la perception en Tunisie, pour qu'une ville s'améliore, pour que les conditions de vie s'améliorent, pour que la ville puisse accueillir des projets de rénovation et d'amélioration de qualité de vie, il fallait s'orienter vers le tourisme parce que la courte expérience que les gens ont pu percevoir du côté du Sahel, du côté de Sousse, de Hammamet, de Madea, ça a été ça. Le vecteur de la régénération, c'était le tourisme. À tort ou à raison, les avis peuvent diverger sur ça, mais c'était la perception générale. C'est pour ça que une association née après 2011, qui a regroupé des jeunes d'une vingtaine d'années et qui s'appelle encore « C'est à vous de changer Bizerte », a voulu travailler sur le marketing territorial de la ville de Bizerte en poussant vers des projets qui rendraient les quartiers historiques plus attrayants, c'est-à-dire faire ce que l'État n'a pas voulu faire ou n'a pas pu faire. C'est pour ça qu'ils ont visé un quartier qui donne sur le vieux port du Bizerte, le vieux port phénicien du Bizerte, le quartier de la Ksiba, la petite Casbah, c'est un quartier de pêcheurs où il y a un nombre d'édifices dont les façades peuvent avoir une valeur patrimoniale et paysagère intéressante. Et là, ils se sont rapprochés de l'association de sauvegarde de la Médina du Bizerte pour mener ce projet-là. Et bien sûr, il y a eu 0 investissement de la part de l'État tunisien. Les études ont été accomplies par des architectes bénévoles. Les travaux, une grande partie des travaux ont été menés par de jeunes bénévoles venus des 2 côtés de la Méditerranée pour travailler surtout pendant l'été sur le ravalement des façades. Vu les moyens qui étaient réduits, où il n'y avait pas des imprimantes 3D et des scanners 3D et tout ça, c'est un architecte céramiste qui a fait la restitution de tous les détails architectoniques, toutes les consoles qui étaient délabrées et a confectionné les moules pour pouvoir accomplir ce chantier, pour qu'au final, on puisse avoir ce genre de façade, ce genre de changement entre avant à droite, ce que vous avez à droite, et après cette bâtisse bleue qui commence petit à petit, même si vous commencez à mettre la recherche sur Google Vieux Port Bizerte, vous allez avoir ces scènes de façades colorées qui commencent petit à petit à devenir un peu l'icône de la ville. Et d'ailleurs, l'un des derniers événements qui a été organisé le week-end dernier, qui s'appelle Forum mondial de la mer, qui s'est déroulé à Bizerte, a choisi les quais de l'Aqsiba comme lieu de ces manifestations-là. Donc ici, on voit que cette expérience citoyenne a essayé de peser sur les politiques du pays en essayant de se débarrasser de cette image militarisée de la ville et faire son propre lobbying sur les murs pour faire amener la ville à un autre destin. Et par rapport aux interactions avec les autorités, sur ce projet-là, sur les derniers 100 mètres, il y a la commune qui vient se greffer pour prêter du matériel, pour prêter des ouvriers, pour adhérer et pour être en phase avec cette société civile qui réussit. Voilà, je pense avoir fait le tour. Je vous remercie pour votre attention.
Merci Mohamed. On a le temps qui se fait très court, mais quand même, on va continuer. S'il y a des collègues qui sont obligés à nous laisser, on les salue, on les remercie beaucoup pour la très belle expérience d'échange de points de vue. Et maintenant, je vais donner la parole à Madame Afef, qui c'est la présidente de l'association Pontes, qui je vais présenter Afef. C'est elle l'animatrice de cette séance sur la Tunisie. Afef Hagi, né à Tunis, a poursuivi des études de psychologie à l'Université Paris 8-25 et un doctorat de recherche en méthodologie de la recherche pour le service socio-éducatif à l'Université de Florence. Cofondatrice de l'association Pontes, des Tunisiens en Italie en 2006, Elle a été impliquée depuis 2011 dans la création de l'association Pontes Tunisie et dans l'implémentation effective de projets de coopération internationale entre la Tunisie et l'Italie. Son expertise dans le champ de la coopération internationale s'appuie sur un profil scientifique interdisciplinaire impliquant des contributions de la psychologie, de la pédagogie et des études interculturelles. En conjuguant une activité de recherche et d'intervention, elle est l'auteur de plusieurs ouvrages et articles scientifiques sur différents sujets tels que le rôle de la diaspora dans le processus de transition démocratique en Tunisie, la citoyenneté transnationale, la diversité culturelle et les dynamiques migratoires contemporaines. Alors, on va terminer avec Afef. Afef, prends ton temps parce que ce n'est pas juste que tu nous puisses donner entièrement ta présentation. Merci Afef, à toi la parole.
Merci. Merci, j'espère que vous m'entendez bien. Je sais que l'après-midi a été long et riche en interventions et donc tout le monde est un peu fatigué, mais je vous demande juste encore un petit peu d'attention pour qu'on puisse finir un peu. Je vais essayer d'être brève et rapide. Tout d'abord, je voudrais vraiment remercier professeur Orefice et professeur Heidel pour l'invitation à la participation au 3e congrès mondial de la transdisciplinarité. C'est un honneur d'être parmi vous aujourd'hui, de porter l'expérience tunisienne avec des interventions qui partent, disons, de la réflexion théorique et de l'analyse qui se basent sur l'analyse en fait de ce qu'on a vécu et ce que la Tunisie a vécu depuis 2011. On a essayé, je sais que la première partie, on a beaucoup parlé d'éducation aussi formelle, d'éducation à la citoyenneté, de comment l'éducation à la citoyenneté peut faire et comment on peut porter les jeunes à être présents dans la ville, à vivre la ville de manière efficace et plus consciente et plus informée, que ce soit par les techniques psychologiques dont a parlé le professeur Montecucco avant, ou avec aussi toutes les activités de l'Unesco. Là, pour finir les présentations et compléter un peu ce qu'ont raconté mes collègues sur les expériences qui ont été vécues en Tunisie, je vais vous raconter l'expérience de notre association Pontes en Tunisie depuis 2011. Une partie en fait. Donc je vais partager mon écran tout d'abord. Voilà. Voilà, donc mon intervention ça, a le titre de l'engagement citoyen pour la renaissance d'un quartier populaire de Tunis. Et je vais parler de l'expérience de l'association Pontes. Donc rapidement, l'association Pontes, elle a été créée en Tunisie, donc la Pontes Tunisie a été créée en octobre 2011. Faut savoir que après la révolution qui a eu le 14 janvier 2011, tout de suite après, en fait, le 24 septembre 2011, il y a eu un changement dans les lois associatives. Donc, du coup, on pouvait finalement avoir la possibilité d'ouvrir une association, sachant qu'avant, ouvrir une association était soumis à des restrictions très fortes et c'était géré par le ministère de l'Intérieur, donc il y avait des contrôles, c'était pas possible d'avoir une activité associative libre. Et à partir du 24 septembre 2011, il y a eu une nouvelle loi, donc plusieurs associations ont été créées, dont la nôtre déjà au mois de novembre 2011, on était on était déjà reconnus et on a pu commencer. Pour avoir une idée un peu du foisonnement de l'activité associative en Tunisie, à la fin de 2012, il y avait 4609 associations qui sont nées après le 14 janvier 2011. Et là, en 2019, on est en train de parler de 22 000 associations en Tunisie. C'est des associations politiques, culturelles, sociales, de sauvegarde du patrimoine, de sauvegarde pour l'environnement. Il y a tout type d'associations. Il y a une vie associative en Tunisie qui est vraiment foisonnante, avec des activités très intéressantes et qui accompagnent justement la transition démocratique, ou je veux dire même sans le signe que la Tunisie malgré les difficultés, est en train de traverser une vraie transition démocratique. Donc, dans notre association, essentiellement, on s'est occupé d'accompagner les réformes institutionnelles après la promulgation de la Constitution en 2014. Essentiellement, on a beaucoup travaillé sur la réforme de la santé avec des programmes de coopération internationale, notamment financés par la région Toscane. On a travaillé sur la promotion de l'investissement en Tunisie et l'entrepreneuriat social. Et là, on s'est beaucoup concentré sur la participation de la diaspora au développement économique en Tunisie et avec des projets européens notamment. On travaille toujours sur la sensibilisation des jeunes autour du thème de la migration irrégulière, qui est un fléau qui touche autant les pays européens que les pays de l'autre côté de la Méditerranée. Donc, c'est un fléau aussi chez nous et il y a beaucoup d'activités justement pour porter une narration alternative et empêcher les jeunes de partir dans ces voyages périlleux à travers la mer et qui portent souvent à beaucoup de morts. Mais là, aujourd'hui, je vais vous parler essentiellement de notre activité dans l'association Pontes en Tunisie de protection de l'environnement à travers la sauvegarde du patrimoine local. Là, nous, l'association Pontes s'est installée dans un quartier, comme vous l'avez fait voir un peu ma collègue Wejden tout à l'heure, dans le quartier de Beb Souika. Beb, en arabe, ça veut dire porte. Donc, c'est le quartier qui est aux portes de Souika. Donc, c'est autour de tout. Il y a 19 portes à Tunis. On est dans un des quartiers de ces portes-là. Et donc, on est un peu, comme on les appelle, les faubourgs de la Médina historique qui est dans les murs, intramuros. Donc, Pontes s'est installé à Bebsuika et notre projet essentiellement dont je vais parler aujourd'hui, on a fait plusieurs autres choses, mais je vais vous parler de notre projet qui s'appelle Reviving Bebsuika. C'est un projet qui est né parce qu'on avait envie et besoin de travailler sur ce contexte historique, sur ce quartier historique qui était livré à la dégradation architecturale, qui était à l'abandon culturel et aussi à la pollution environnementale. Donc, c'est un projet dans lequel, en s'installant dans les locaux de notre association sont situés dans une maison qui est à Bebsuika, on avait envie de travailler justement sur ces deux dimensions ensemble. À la fois la sauvegarde du patrimoine culturel qui se retrouve dans ce quartier populaire. Déjà, le siège de l'association en soi est une maison qui a besoin d'être restaurée parce qu'elle a été abandonnée pendant plusieurs années. Et en même temps aussi, on voulait travailler sur la gestion efficiente de l'environnement. Donc, les deux, en fait, nous permettent de travailler de manière à ce que la culture soit un facteur de développement durable. C'est un peu notre objectif avec les projets que nous avons développés à Bebsuika et dans le projet Reviving Bebsuika. Moi, de mon côté aussi, ce que je voulais partager avec vous, c'est la réflexion autour de ce que l'action associative, dans ce sens-là, de sauvegarde du patrimoine, de travail sur l'environnement, si on y porte un regard pédagogique, ça veut dire pour nous travailler sur de l'acquisition de compétences, en fait. Avoir participé, et ça tout à l'heure, professeur Vitali en a parlé, participer, ça veut dire entrer dans des processus participatifs, ça veut dire qu'on acquiert quelque part des capacités politiques et citoyennes. Vu que je vous rappelle un peu ce qu'a raconté ma collègue Wejden tout à l'heure, en partant d'un passé dictatorial où il n'y a pas de liberté, il n'y avait pas de liberté, il n'y avait pas de possibilité de participation, une fois que la révolution a eu lieu, il fallait rentrer dans quand même un processus d'apprentissage de ce que c'est que de vivre sa citoyenneté démocratique. Et ça part aussi de l'expérience quotidienne de l'être citoyen en devenir, parce que c'est un moment quand même de transition. Il y a encore beaucoup de construction à faire, mais bon, maintenant, il y a 10 ans qui passent, on peut un peu s'arrêter à un moment pour faire le point sur cette situation et voir un peu quel apprentissage individuel et collectif nous avons réussi à porter avec la vie associative qui s'est créée en Tunisie, où on arrive à toucher justement les deux dimensions formatrice et transformatrice de la citoyenneté. Parce que la citoyenneté, à la fois, n'est pas seulement un statut, voilà, c'est pas un donné de fait naturel qu'on soit citoyen, c'est une construction, c'est un apprentissage qui prend du temps. Donc, un peu, c'est avec ce regard-là que je vais vous raconter un peu notre projet à Pontes, Tunisie, et ce qui s'est passé dans ces dernières années. Donc, l'idée, c'était d'investir cet espace qui est situé dans un quartier populaire, comme je vous ai expliqué, et de créer des projets culturels intégrés. Ça veut dire une bibliothèque de quartier, un salon d'exposition, un club de rencontres et de conférences. On avait l'idée de créer un studio de création photographique, mais ça, malheureusement, on ne sont pas encore réussi à le faire. Mais il y a eu des laboratoires de photographie qui ont eu lieu aussi dans le cadre, mais on n'a pas réussi à créer vraiment le studio. Et surtout, ce qu'on a réussi à mettre en place pendant ces 10 dernières années, c'est des espaces où il y a des cadres de formation pour les femmes et pour les jeunes. Ça veut dire que notre public cible était essentiellement les femmes et les jeunes, et cet espace-là était un espace où ils pouvaient accéder à des formations professionnalisantes, à des formations qui ouvrent la possibilité à ces personnes-là d'accéder aussi à un monde professionnel, apprendre de nouvelles choses et de nouvelles compétences. Et l'idée aussi derrière ça, c'était que les habitants du quartier soient en quelque sorte impliqués dans les projets qu'on voulait faire dans l'association. On voulait quelque part travailler pour que l'association soit intégrée dans la vie de quartier. C'est clair que c'est un objectif très grand et ça n'a pas toujours été facile. On ne va pas dire que ça a été facile, c'est pas très, très facile. Et d'ailleurs là, je pense que dans les 10 ans d'expérience, on a essuyé des échecs sur ce plan-là. On a eu même des moments un peu de tension entre les habitants du quartier et la présence de l'association, parce que peut-être on appelait des choses qu'ils n'étaient pas encore prêts à suivre, ils n'avaient pas très envie, ils les sentaient un peu extérieurs. Je peux vous dire qu'on a réussi à tisser un lien qui était fort du moment où, par exemple, dans le siège de notre association, il y avait des membres de l'association qui y habitaient. Okay. Donc, quand les membres de l'association, parce qu'on avait des appartements dans le siège, quand il y a eu 1 ou 2 membres de l'association qui habitaient dans l'association, à ce moment-là, les gens du quartier les considéraient comme fils du quartier, ça veut dire bent et weld al-Huma. Et à ce moment-là, ils étaient devenus un peu, quelque part, c'est comme si dans l'appartenance au quartier, il y a toujours cette dimension de l'habitat. Il faut être du quartier pour être accepté. Il faut un moment, comment dire, de rituel de passage pour être accepté comme part du quartier. Et une fois qu'on est accepté comme part du quartier, à ce moment-là, ils peuvent appuyer nos initiatives, ils participent volontairement. Donc, c'est un travail, c'est pas parce qu'on arrive avec un beau projet qu'un quartier populaire qui est même dans le besoin, qui est dans l'abandon, qui a envie de changer, va forcément accepter des projets qui sont portés par des gens qu'ils considèrent à un certain moment externes. Alors qu'eux ne sont pas externes, nous sommes tunisiens autant qu'eux, mais la dimension de quartier est une dimension pour soi déjà forte d'appartenance. Donc, quand on a créé cet espace et qu'on était dedans, donc là, je raconte un peu l'expérience qu'on a eue à Pontes, mais ce qu'a raconté aussi Mohamed Amin Ben Saïd avant moi, raconte aussi d'expériences d'autres associations qu'ils ont eues, c'est qu'on a créé un espace, en fait, intergénérationnel. Ça, c'est une des caractéristiques que je voulais partager avec vous. Ça veut dire que c'est des espaces c'est des espaces qui apprennent. Comme on peut dire ça. C'est des espaces qui sont capables d'apprendre. C'est des espaces qui peuvent se réélaborer, répartir les rôles entre les différents membres et les différentes générations. Ça, c'est souvent un gros problème, d'après ce que j'ai vu aussi dans les espaces associatifs européens. C'est-à-dire des espaces jeunes, c'est jeune, les espaces pour les personnes âgées, c'est un espace pour les personnes âgées, et c'est très difficile de les mettre ensemble. Dans ces espaces qui sont créés et qui grandissent et agissent autour d'un intérêt pour un quartier, pour un patrimoine, pour le lieu dans lequel on est, souvent, c'est des espaces aussi où on peut se mélanger entre générations. Et du coup, il peut y avoir cette continuité, en fait, entre les plus anciens et les plus jeunes. dans l'éducation familiale, dans les études d'éducation familiale, on parle de transmission inverse, on parle de socialisation inverse, on parle, c'est tous ces termes pour dire comment de la filiation ascendante. Ce sont des termes qui ont été utilisés pour expliquer comment, par exemple, dans un système familial, souvent et aussi dans le contexte migratoire, c'est les enfants souvent qui apprennent aux parents certaines choses sur l'extérieur. C'est-à-dire que c'est les enfants qui sont un peu vecteurs de l'intégration de leurs parents parce qu'ils ramènent des choses nouvelles et qui intègrent dans l'espace familial des pratiques nouvelles. Et là, c'est un peu ce qui se passe aussi dans ces espaces associatifs. C'est-à-dire qu'on a des jeunes qui arrivent et qui ont des envies un peu de faire des choses différentes qui peuvent ne pas plaire, on pourrait penser qu'elles peuvent ne pas plaire à des personnes plus âgées, mais qu'en fait, ils finissent par l'accepter pour laisser de l'espace un peu à tout le monde. Là, tout à l'heure, je vous avais fait voir un peu l'image de notre, ici sur le mur. Donc, ça veut dire que c'est en même temps, on parle de la mémoire, mais en même temps, on a un tag, en fait, un street art qui est dans le siège de l'association. Et tous les deux convivent comme ça, vivent ensemble, cohabitent tranquillement. Une autre caractéristique aussi, c'est les associations comme des instances intégratives de la citoyenneté. Ça a été aussi le cas pour notre association. Ça veut dire que c'est des associations qui permettent aux citoyens de compléter, de réparer des manquances, des déficits que les institutions peuvent avoir. Et dans ce cas-là, dans la présentation de mon collègue qui m'a précédé, il en a longuement parlé de comment des citoyens s'organisent pour faire revivre un quartier, pour changer l'image d'une ville comme celle de Bizerte, parce que les institutions ou l'État n'a pas travaillé dessus, ne s'y est pas intéressé ou ça ne fait pas partie de son agenda. Donc, les associations, dans ce contexte-là de transition démocratique, ont joué justement ce rôle-là d'instance intégrative entre les besoins des citoyens et les objectifs qu'on peut atteindre autour d'un projet commun. Et je pense que dans les 10 années justement qui sont passées, on a aussi appris à travailler avec les institutions, à collaborer autour d'un projet commun, de manière à retrouver un peu chacun son rôle, ses prérogatives, sans qu'il y ait chevauchement ou sans qu'il y ait compétition aussi. Nous, dans l'expérience de Bebsuira, on avait un projet, on a beaucoup, c'est pas un projet, c'est des années de travail qui continuent, c'est pas fini, sur la gestion des déchets dans le quartier. Parce que les quartiers populaires, c'est des petites rues, c'est compliqué, il n'y a pas les poubelles de bonnes mesures pour permettre aux gens. Puis, il y a aussi de la nonchalance, il y a un peu du laisser-aller, il y a du désintérêt. Donc, il y a une quantité d'éléments, en fait, qui font qu'il y a une dégradation de l'environnement dans ces quartiers-là et sur lesquels nous, on a continué à travailler jusqu'à là, je vous présente un des projets qui était il y a Ahna, il y a le poubelle, ça veut dire ou nous ou la poubelle, quoi. Ou nous, les déchets, on peut pas cohabiter avec les déchets dans le même espace comme c'est le cas. Là, je vous voyez l'image, il y a un artisan qui travaille autour de lui, il y a un point de récolte des déchets de toute la rue. Lui, il vit avec et ça l'énerve, mais il ne sait pas comment faire pour pouvoir porter sa voix. Nous aussi, comme association, on a ça devant la porte de notre association et on n'a aucune envie d'avoir ça devant la porte et on se dit qu'il y a un moyen pour pouvoir trouver des solutions. Donc là, quand on est dans un espace pareil, alors qu'à l'intérieur de notre siège, il y a une telle attention, un tel travail, on ne peut pas ne pas s'impliquer dans ce qui est dans notre quartier. Et donc, autour de ce travail, donc d'un côté, c'est ce qu'on a réussi à organiser autour de la porte de l'association, sur l'image que j'ai là sur la droite, et en face, voilà, c'est ça, c'est toujours la même rue, et on peut passer de ça à ça. Et tout au long de ces années, on a bataillé, on a eu les habitants avec nous, comme des moments où on les a eu contre nous, parce qu'eux, ils ne savaient pas où jeter leurs poubelles, et c'était ça le coin où ils devaient les jeter, donc il fallait aussi en discuter pour pouvoir y arriver, jusqu'à un certain moment où, ensemble, on s'est adressé aussi aux collectivités locales pour travailler dessus. Ça ne veut pas dire que la question est résolue, mais ça veut dire qu'une modalité de travailler est née autour de l'intérêt ou autour de l'intérêt de tous les citoyens et poussée par l'action associative. Donc, l'idée que, voilà, qu'on peut apprendre à travailler avec les institutions et on peut apprendre à le faire grâce au travail associatif, grâce à cette instance intégrative que représente la société civile. Et là, c'est ça, en fait, c'est comprendre le monde politique et sa rhétorique, connaître les institutions et leur logique, ça c'est un peu le résultat qu'on a obtenu, maîtriser le contexte local et ses spécificités, c'est le résultat d'un apprentissage formel et informel de la citoyenneté démocratique. Donc, ça représente des connaissances requises pour exercer la citoyenneté de manière consciente, informée. C'est-à-dire, si on n'a pas appris à avoir à faire avec les institutions, à savoir comment ça marche, quelle est la logique derrière, quelle est leur pensée, ce qu'ils veulent et ce qu'ils ne veulent pas, comment est leur agenda et comment on peut se faire écouter par eux, c'est très difficile après d'être un citoyen conscient et informé dans la société démocratique d'aujourd'hui. Et en fait, c'est à ce titre qui permettent à l'individu d'agir et d'intervenir avec les autorités dans les contextes sociaux et institutionnels. C'est un des apprentissages, enfin de la formation, de l'éducation informelle que peut offrir la participation dans la vie associative. Là, je passe au dernier événement et j'aurai fini. Ça, c'est aussi une autre réflexion sur la citoyenneté. C'est-à-dire que la citoyenneté, c'est aussi le pouvoir de nommer, de créer du sens, de construire des biographies personnelles et des récits en maîtrisant le flux de l'information, des biens et des processus culturels. Et ça, c'est une dimension très importante de la citoyenneté en tant que processus actif. Être un citoyen actif, participer, ça veut dire aussi pouvoir se raconter comme on entend le faire. Ça veut dire couper avec un discours autoritaire, avec un discours de l'État qui était imposé par le haut pour se raconter. Et là, on s'est raconté à travers cet événement. C'est un exemple que j'essaie de partager avec vous. Ça rappelle un peu la mosquée dont parlait Mohamed Amin Ben Saïd tout à l'heure, de Cheikh Ahmed Tijani. C'est en fait une pratique spirituelle, populaire, tunisienne, portée essentiellement par les femmes. Nous aussi, comme ceux qui ont rénové la mosquée à Bizerte, on a amené ces femmes à faire une performance, en fait, à jouer leur chant, leur chant mystique. C'est une tariqa tijaniya, c'est du soufisme, en fait, c'est du soufisme mystique maghrébin, populaire. C'est peut-être une des seules, des rares qui a des femmes qui sont chanteuses, en fait, et pas que des hommes qui sont chanteurs. Donc, c'est des femmes chanteuses. Souvent, c'est des femmes qui s'exhibent dans des lieux fermés, dans des lieux privés, familiales, de fêtes autour des femmes. Et là, elles ont accepté de partager ce moment avec nous. Elles sont du quartier. L'association était dans le quartier, ça nous a permis de les avoir chez nous. Elles ne sont pas allées dehors, voilà, pour elles ne sont pas allées dehors, elles sont allées toujours dans le quartier, donc c'était comme si elles faisaient toujours la même chose. Et ça nous a permis un peu de porter et de faire voir, en fait, de faire vivre cette pratique qui était pendant un moment, maintenant non heureusement, mais pendant plusieurs années, les premières années après la Révolution, très, très menacée. Tout ce qui était un islam par les salafistes, justement, qui prônent un islam rétrograde. Donc, ça, c'est les fêtes, c'est des femmes autour d'un même tambour qui chantent tout un chant, des chants et des mystiques. C'était un moment très partagé, c'est des percussions, mais des louanges du prophète, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, des prières, des litanies. Et ça nous a permis aussi de faire connaître cette pratique à des jeunes qui n'ont jamais vu, qui ne connaissaient pas d'ailleurs. C'était en train de se perdre, en fait, comme habitude. Ça, c'est du patrimoine immatériel que si on ne lui donne pas l'espace de vivre, d'exister dans l'espace public, d'être transmis aux jeunes, finirait par se perdre, justement. Et ça, c'est ce que le travail associatif essaie de faire. Là, c'est les danses, des transes des femmes autour du chant qui a été mené. Et donc, c'est un peu, pour conclure, c'est cette réflexion, en fait, qu'il s'agit, et c'est la citoyenneté à partir de ces actions, de cette manière de se poser dans l'espace public, c'est aussi un apprentissage de soi et de la relation de soi avec l'autre. C'est un processus d'apprentissage dans la mesure où il s'articule dans des perceptions de soi en tant qu'agent actif et acteur social, façonné par les relations avec les autres. Dans cette optique, la citoyenneté concerne l'identité et l'action. Elle comporte à la fois des dimensions personnelles et cognitives qui s'étendent au-delà du niveau personnel vers le niveau culturel plus large de la société. Un peu en participant, en essayant d'apprendre à être des citoyens dans une démocratie, on apprend aussi à se connaître soi-même, on apprend aussi à se raconter de manière plus authentique. Donc ça, je finis avec ça, c'est l'image de la jeune Tijaniya. Là, c'est l'image vraiment paradoxale, c'est-à-dire elle est jeune, mais en même temps, elle appartient à un groupe qui existe depuis des centaines d'années. Elle a sa pose toute jeune, toute présente, qui s'approche à la photo. C'est l'image de ce qu'on voudrait faire. C'est l'image qui nous dit que oui, ça, on va continuer, elle va continuer. Ce mouvement ne va pas mourir, ne va pas être oublié. Et dans des espaces comme ça, on peut justement sauver notre héritage et notre patrimoine. Encore une fois, merci pour l'invitation. Je le redis au nom de tous mes collègues qui ont parlé avec moi aussi. Et je remercie tous les présents pour leur patience et pour leur contribution. Merci.
Merci à toi, Afef, merci à Mohamed Amin, merci à Ojidan. Vous avez donné un cadre bien riche de ce que vous faites pour la régénération sociale, culturelle, éducative, et intangible et tangible dans les communautés, dans les villes. C'est un très beau exemple que nous, comme Congrès, sommes heureux que vous, comme l'autre de l'Égypte, que nous mettons à disposition de toutes les personnes qui nous suivent, parce que ce sont expériences où il y a beaucoup de théories, il y a beaucoup de pratiques, et surtout, c'est une renaissance, une régénération, comme vous avez dit, de la citoyenneté. L'Unesco parle beaucoup de la citoyenneté globale, que ce serait la citoyenneté des êtres, c'est la citoyenneté de la relation entre, comme tu as dit, entre le soi et l'autre. Il faut apprendre l'apprentissage de soi, c'est le travail mental qu'on a présenté, et en relation à l'autre, c'est le travail mental qui s'engage dans l'action, qui crée une synthèse nouvelle. On n'a pas le temps de poser des questions, mais je vais vous dire qu'il y a une contribution de Victoria Barros du Brésil, qui fait partie de l'organisation du Congrès mondial. Et elle dit que c'est extraordinaire le travail que vous faites, la récupération des quartiers historiques et des nouvelles utilisations espaces publics. Je vais reprendre la question posée par Victoria, qui est collègue de Maria De Mello, qui coordonne même le Congrès mondial. L'autre jour, avait posé la question si même au Brésil, parce qu'il parle du Brésil, même au Brésil, il y a des cités créatives, il y a des cités qui apprennent. Oui, l'UNESCO a un réseau dans tout le monde, mais évidemment, il faut que les associations, l'initiative locale présentent une candidature pour faire partie au réseau de l'UNESCO. Je pense que même votre expérience à l'EF, ça serait très bien posé dans les cités créatives et les cités qui apprennent l'UNESCO. Si vous êtes intéressé, nous pouvons en parler. C'est parce qu'il faut donner des contributions aux autres et même il faut apprendre des autres dans un cadre mondial. C'est vraiment très riche. Je suis très heureux du travail qu'on a fait l'après-midi. On a eu l'impression que la transdisciplinarité, on peut la réaliser. On a vu que les questions qui ont été posées sont très connectées, que notre travail mental a besoin de s'engager à 360 degrés à tous les niveaux. Et vous avez des très grandes, très bonnes contributions. Je me réfère soit aux contributions du collègue anglophone pour on dirait l'Égypte, mais pas seulement l'Égypte, même l'Italie, et même la contribution que vous avez donnée sur l'expérience tunisienne, même ce pont entre Italie et, on peut dire, Europe, pays arabes, c'est très important pour le futur. Je ne sais pas s'il y a d'autres, il y a des remerciements. Il y a le professeur Mohsen, je ne sais pas s'il est encore là. Et le professeur Mohsen, il a remercié beaucoup pour avoir participé à notre congrès. Et nous aussi, nous faisons l'invitation à tous qu'on se puisse voir au Mexico. Et ici, nous avons notre présidente, la professeure Julieta Haidar. Je vais lui donner la parole si elle aime intervenir pour inviter tous les participants et le réseau au congrès mondial qu'on aura l'année prochaine à la cité de Mexico. Et nous avons beaucoup à travailler cette année et j'espère que vous aussi, vous pouvez travailler pour le congrès en présence, pas seulement vous, mais parce qu'on a besoin de présenter ces études de cas, mais des études de cas qui démontrent comment c'est bien, et c'est pas facile, mais comment intégrer le naturel, le biologique, la psychologie, le social, le culturel, intégrer le visible, l'invisible, intégrer la relation entre nous et le monde dans Alors, je termine. Yo quiero a Madame Julieta Haidar, presidente de nuestro congreso, si quiere dar un agradecimiento en español, en francés, como tú quieras.
Sí, no, en español. Bueno. El Congreso agradece mucho la presencia en esta semana de los países árabes y de Italia sobre esos proyectos tan interesantes de las ciudades de aprendizaje y de las ciudades creativas, que pienso que son proyectos que abren caminos importantes para los pueblos, ¿no? Creo que las ciudades de aprendizaje creativas hay en varios continentes, no solo en Europa, más en Europa, pero debe haber también en América, no sé, América Latina, no sé, no conozco mucho, y después ustedes pueden mandar al Congreso para subir cuál es el mapeo. Creo que presentaron un mapa. Stefania, no sé quién presentó un mapa de las ciudades creativas y de las ciudades de aprendizaje. Es importante tener esos mapas para subir a la página del Congreso. Muy interesante para subir. Tenemos la página web, que yo espero que todos conozcan la página web, en donde tenemos grabado 11 meses de Congreso, de vídeos. Todo el mundo puede entrar y ver en la página web los vídeos del Congreso. Como decía Paolo, el Congreso tiene varios campos. En las 44 semanas que estamos desarrollando, el Congreso cubre desde la filosofía a lo social, a lo cultural, a la educación, a la ciencia, al arte, a la religión. Cubre como de 10 o más temas y subtemas. En ese sentido, el Congreso deja una memoria muy rica para reflexionar. Y como dice Paolo, es importante que los que participaron en el Congreso virtual se integren al Congreso presencial en México en noviembre de 2022, el otro año. En noviembre tenemos el Congreso Mundial presencial. Y esperamos que puedan participar con mesas, con simposios. Eso es muy importante. Agradecemos mucho su participación. Pedimos los trabajos, Paolo, para subir sus trabajos para colocarlo en la página web. Sus trabajos, esperamos sus trabajos, sus presentaciones, para poner en la página web. Si tú quieres traducir, muchísimas gracias por su participación.
Muchas gracias, Julieta. Nuestra presidente, él me demanda traducir.
De la malaya en árabe, pero bueno. Okay.
En árabe, pour moi, c'est difficile, mais tu peux parler en arabe, parce que él es de origen arabe, notre président.
Salam alaikum es adiós, pero no sé cómo es. Muchas gracias.
Elle est née en Brésil, elle vit au Mexico, mais ses parents, ils viennent des pays arabes.
Muito obrigado em português.
Sí, sí, mucho obrigado. Bueno, pardon.
Não, pero a que não vai recordar que subam as apresentações, que mandem as apresentações.
S'il vous plaît, si vous envoyez le vidéo de documentation de vos activités, parce qu'on va le mettre dans le site du congrès, parce que tout le monde peut le connaître. We invite all participants to send the Congress documentation of your activities, video, audio, or what you want. Title, bibliography, because we can put all in the site, website of the Congress.
Paolo, é melhor que mandem PowerPoint or the text, because the video impossible in the website. Video no. PowerPoint or text.
Sí, PowerPoint or escrito, des documents écrits, the right documents. PowerPoints, but very difficult to reproduce a video on the site.
And in channel YouTube, it's possible to translate in 112 languages.
Yeah, do you understand?
Não sei se eles sabem. Não sei se eles sabem.
Le hemos dicho varias veces, Julieta. We hope that.
Sorry for this disconnection. Sorry for the disconnection.
Please, Professor. Please.
No, I just was disconnected. That's all. So I came back. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much for your participation. Thank you.
It's my pleasure and honor to be here with you all. Thank you very much for this important sessions and for chairing this important group of people. And also, I'm just honored to be with this distinguished scholars and speakers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Professor Puma, Stefania. Thank you all, Professor Nitamo Montecucco. I cannot forget Paola, Puma. All. It's a very, very nice, very good symposium. Very rich, very, very strong. Very energy. And we hope you can meet again in the future Congress.
Merci, thank you for moderating the session.
Merci beaucoup. Merci aux collègues, amis français.
Paolo,
on va saluer. Julieta, je vais remercier le professeur de l'Université de Cairo.
Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Como se dice?
Thank you very much.